Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. I signed in at Akatsuki for 10 years and get the Kaido template. Chapter 31. Interesting. No matter who you are, if you disturb me to make a puppet, then you will pay me. Judging from your ability just now, I believe you will become a masterpiece that I am extremely satisfied with. Quote. However, Sasori of Akasago is not easy to follow. Although he was afraid of TNU's Conqueror's Haki, before defecting, as the strongest of Sand Shinobi's generation, his performance was extremely strong. Without waiting for TNU to express his intention, he has made no secret of his idea of making TNU a puppet. It's a coincidence. It just so happens that I have similar thoughts. A puppet master like you is predestined to our organization, and should be used by our organization. Quote. Regarding the maliciousness and greed in the eyes of Sasori of the Red Sand, TNU has no resistance. Meetings between big people are to show respect by two tricks. Just like Conqueror's Haki just now. If Sasori of Akasago happens to miss it, he can only say sorry. Conversely, if he will catch the two moves of Sasori of Akasha later, that's the same. Wasn't it the same when he recruited Kakuzu? If Master Zhao didn't come close by means, and after hitting him with all three skills, he found that he couldn't even scratch his skin, then Master Zhao was not calling you to give me money, I'll help you do things. It's killing people and robbing money. Then it depends on how many caddies you have. The eyes of Sasori of Akasago flashed with cold, and his right hand did not know when he had already held a scroll. In the next second, there was a bang, and accompanied by a cloud of white fog, a puppet had been reflected in the sight of TNU and Conan. Is it the third cage that is known as the strongest in the history of Wind and Shadow in your hands? You actually made third cage a puppet. Quote. Conan's beautiful eyes glared, and his cold pretty face showed a hint of shock. Pretty girl, you know the goods. Yes, he is the third cage with the name of the strongest Wind and Shadow. This is the most satisfying work of my life. Among the puppets I have done, there is no better than him. Quote. When Conan was shocked by his puppetry, Sasori of Akasago was just like Kakuzu after adding money, and his words immediately became very nice. It's no wonder that Sasori of the Red Sand has become a traitor, and he dared to cat in the oasis near Sunagakure. How can a traitor who can kill even the shadow of his own village and become a puppet fear Sunagakure? Quote. Conan glanced deeply at Sasori of the Red Sand. Such people are much more dangerous than Jia Qian. Even the shadow of the ninja village can be killed, and even made into a puppet. Then what else can Sasori of Akasawa fail to do? Of course, I believe you will also become two rare excellent works in my hands. Especially you. When Sasori of the Red Sand looked at TNU, he was connected with 10 chakra threads, and the third cage floating in the air suddenly moved. Magnet-style sand iron shiu. In an instant, the sky was covered with a layer of black, heavy, and forbidding sand and iron. What is even more terrifying is that after the appearance of this thick sand iron like a cloud, it immediately turned into countless fine needles and shot it out towards TNU. Too late to hide, or did he not plan to avoid it at all? What made Sasori of the Red Sand squint his eyes slightly is that he found that TNU stood in place without evasive, letting the fine sand iron needles that were even more terrifying than the torrential rain pear blossom hit him. The strongest Wind Shadow. This is it. TNU stretched out his hand to pat on the body without changing his face. The black sand and iron piled up on the body were all shot apart. This is just an appetizer. Akasha no Sasori's pupils shrank, and a terrifying physique was heard secretly. This guy is physically stronger than the brash guy in Cloud Shinobi Village. Seeing the monster-like physique of TNU, he did not dare to be negligent, and immediately manipulated third cage to perform big moves. Magnet-style sand-iron boundary method. Countless sand and iron gathered again, forming a series of terrifying spikes in an instant. These spikes are all exuding purple light without exception. Obviously, the sand and iron were all poisoned by him. Bang bang bang. However, no matter the fine needles or sharp thorns made by sand iron, when all the bombardments on TNU's body, let alone pierce his muscles, even one layer of skin cannot be scraped. Master Sasori, are you scraping me? TNU stood in place, looking at Sasori of the Red Sand with a playful expression. As for the sand iron spikes that couldn't even be scratched on his body, he didn't even look at it from start to finish. What monster! Sasori's expression gradually became difficult to look at. Even the fart can't be broken. No matter how poisonous he urges it, it's useless. It seems that the strong at Sunagaku really like mixing water. Whether it is the name of Third Cage's strongest wind shadow, or the name of Sasori of your red sand, the first puppet master of the ninja world, all have amazing water content. Quote. Tianyu made an understatement, and at the same time reduced the living Sasori of the red sand and the dead Third Cage to nothing. Asshole, don't underestimate Master Puppet. The eyes of Sasori of Akasago showed hideous bloodshot eyes. Seeing that he can be shocked by Conan for his puppetry, he can speak so much that he can hear the nickname of a pretty girl, and this alone can tell how much he values the puppetry he has mastered. Click. Seeing that Tianyu despised the puppet technique he was so proud of, Sasori of the red sand immediately jumped in the void like a spirit. Third Cage in midair quickly raised his arms, releasing thousands of puppet arms and blasting against Tianyu fiercely. Puff. More than that, when these arms touched Tianyu's body, they also spewed a purple poisonous mist that engulfed a radius of more than 10 meters. No matter how strong you are, the toxin carefully formulated by the first puppet master in the ninja world. Boom. The words of Sasori of the red sand confidently have not finished yet. The thousands of puppet arms released by Third Cage have been pressed into the air by Tianyu with a finger entwined with red light. Hiss. What made him even more horrified was that Tianyu grabbed his post-operation with one finger, and unexpectedly opened his mouth to suck. This simple inhalation action actually rolled up the appalling hurricane and sucked all the poisonous mist floating around in his mouth. What did you just say about the poison? After Tianyu sucked the poisonous mist into his mouth, he asked Sasori of red sand in a leisurely manner. Idiot, you are dead. Actually dared to suck away my poisonous mist in one breath. You wait, in less than 10 seconds, you will die from poisoning and festering. Quote. After being sluggish for a few seconds, Sasori of the red sand immediately pointed at Tianyu and shouted proudly. 10 seconds, right, I will give you 1 minute. Quote. Tianyu nodded clearly, and then stood on the spot very leisurely. 10 seconds later, the smile on Sasori's face froze. Because Tianyu is still standing. After half a minute, Sasori's face was as dark as the bottom of a pot. Because Tianyu squatted on the ground, fiddled with his sand iron in a boring manner. 1 minute later, just when Sasori of red sand collapsed, Tianyu suddenly stood up with a serious face. Poisoned. Sasori of the red sand felt happy, but Tianyu with a slightly frowned brow greeted him. Are the materials you used to create poisonous mists out of date? Why do I feel that my mouth has breathed after inhaling your poisonous mist? Quote. Tianyu looked at Sasori of the red sand curiously. No matter who you are, Sasori of the red sand today bet on the name of the first puppet master in the Jonin world, and I will kill you here. Sasori of the red sand roared angrily, and then manipulated the third cage to release magnet style to gather all the sand and iron to form a huge, fast-rotating sand iron top piercing down Tianyu's Tianlingai. Boom. Scoff. Facing the sand iron top falling from the sky, Tianyu neatly arranged his clothes, and then allowed the sand iron top to drill continuously against his Tianling cover. But the sharp cones at the bottom of the sand iron top drilled red, hot, and even melted into sand iron ash, and his scalp was still undamaged. This horrible physique not only made Sasori of Akasha look terrifying, but even Conan felt goosebumps all over his body. Don't speak wild words, it will only reveal your weakness. Tianyu patted the iron ash stained on his thick hair, and then walked towards Sasori of the red sand unhurriedly. His steps are not fast and not heavy, but every time he steps on the ground, the blue sky above the oasis will become darker. When he walked in front of Sasori of the red sand, the blue sky and white clouds over the original oasis were gone, replaced by heavy thunderclouds that were about to fall down. Squalls, thunder, and lightning appeared one after another. The horrific and oppressive feeling of wind and rain rushed into the heart of Sasori of the red sand madly. No. Impossible. How could there be such a powerful person in this world? No, I don't allow such a powerful person to exist in the ninja world. Quote. Scared to take a step back, Sasori of Akasago put the Buddha in annoyance and took out a scroll again. Red Secret Skill 100 Machine Performance. You disappear for me. Bo 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 bo. Along with a white mist, groups of puppets appeared one after another. In a blink of an eye, the sky of the oasis seemed to be occupied and filled by this huge number of puppet army. Although the body has not been modified yet, it is still a bit difficult to control the huge number of puppets, but if it is only for a short time, it shouldn't be a problem. Sasori opened his hands, and 10 fingers gushed out a large amount of chakra thread. Looking at it, there are at least 300. Just connect each puppet. Do you still think of dancing? Tianyu raised his head and glanced at the sky full of puppets. The dragon eyes full of gazes were gradually shrouded in scarlet light. Just as Sasori of the Red Sand was about to manipulate the hundreds of red puppets in front of him to attack him, he held the black knife Kongyunchi behind his right hand with his right hand. A series of dark as ink, horribly moving lightning burst out, and flowed around the black knife cluster cloud cuts. Yung 3 Inrock. The icy, violent, but domineering voice resounded like thunder throughout the oasis. In the next second, the black knife Kong Yunchi held by Tianyu was out of its sheath. Scoff. The black knife in his hand, Kong Yunchi, was just smashed. Obviously, it was tens of meters away from the nearest puppet, but when the black knife and cloud cut fell down, the front end of the blade burst out like black mist and streamed black energy. That is Conqueror's Haki entanglement. Boom. With a loud noise, the sky and the earth in the entire oasis shook. The terrifying Conqueror's Haki swept the sky and the sand like a storm. Faced with the power of releasing the Buddha to shake Tianwei, the hundreds of puppets that Sasori of the Red Sand had just released, before they had time to attack, had already entangled Conqueror's Haki by Tianyu, and they were all wiped out. After the wind and sand in the sky dissipated, the puppet army that had almost occupied the sky of the oasis in the previous second was gone. Only a 1,000-meter-long crack connecting the sky and the earth remained in the sight of Sasori and Conan of the Red Sand. No matter how many times I saw it, it was still so shocking. With Tianyu's strength, I am afraid that even Kakuzu, a legendary ninja who can fight against the god of ninjas, is not an opponent. Quote. With Tianyu's shocking glance, Conan's beautiful eyes showed a thrilling splendor. At this time, she couldn't help but an idea popped up in her heart. That is, after I went back, I asked the legendary ninja Kakuzu to fight against Tianyu. Anyway, Kakuzu has 5 lives, and he is not afraid of competing with masters. There will be deaths and injuries. It doesn't matter if there are casualties, she can add money to Kakuzu. Run. On the other side, Sasori of Akasa, who had never been awed by anything, recovered from the huge shock. There was only one thought left in his mind. As for the gambling on the name of Sasori of Red Sand, it is not important at all to kill Tianyu here. Sand Shinobi's moisture content can be known by looking at the moisture content of the strongest wind shadow on the head of 3rd cage. Qian. But just as Sasori of Akasago was about to perform ninjutsu and slip away, a black knife, Kong Yunchi, which was as black as ink and filled with awe-inspiring haki, had stopped a millimeter in front of his forehead. Don't be too persistent, I can't keep my hand every time. You should already know it very clearly. It's hard to master this power if you step on the ant without killing him. Quote. Tianyu holds a black knife Kong Yunchi, and Bubo Gujing's voice entangles the awe-inspiring haki who looks over the world and despise Wan Ren. Snapped. Looking up at Tianyu in front of him, Sasori of the Red Sand was in a trance and saw a blue dragon entrenched in the sky and overlooking all beings. And this blue dragon was looking down at an ant that was obviously insignificant but dared to provoke the dragon. The horror and horror filled his mind, causing the body of Akasa of Sasori to tremble slightly. Click. As time went by, the spirit and will became weaker and weaker, and this Sand Shinobi, who is also the #1 puppet master in the ninja world, even weakened his knees and knelt directly in front of Tianyu. This is not the hallucination of Sasori of the Red Sand. Not to scare yourself. Instead, Tianyu's black knife Kongyun cut the conqueror's haki that entangled him. Even if the black knife Kongyun cut is still 1 millimeter away from the center of the Red Sand Sasori's eyebrows, the conqueror's haki wrapped around the blade is still like a mad anger, madly impacting the spiritual will of the Red Sand Sasori. Seeing this, Conan, who was unknown, couldn't help but startled. Don't look at Master Sasori's gua sha output from start to finish. She knows the reason for this. What if the opponent is not Qinglong Tianyu, but try another ninja? She estimated that even if the legendary ninja Kakuzu was in front of him, he was manipulated by Master Sasori not only to scrape the bones, but also to scrape away several pieces in a row. So even if Master Sasori behaves no matter how much Ji Yusha when facing Tianyu, she doesn't have the slightest contempt. She is still the #1 puppet master in the ninja world who agrees with Master Sasori from the bottom of her heart. But such a ninja who is so proficient in puppetry that the world of ninja actually knelt down. This scene had a great impact on her soul, one can imagine. Why can't I scratch his skin? Am I not the #1 puppet master in the ninja world? This puppet technique, what's the point of my practice? If Conan is so shocked, Sasori of the Red Sand on his knees can only be described as desperate. He has practiced puppet skills for a lifetime, and he is also known as Sand Shinobi's first puppet master. The results of it, but even a layer of Tianyu's skin can't be broken. This also caused him to kneel on the ground, and the whole person was muddled. I only know that those few words kept repeating. System, sign into the Kingdom of Wind and Sasori of the Red Sand. After Tianyu beat Master Sasori to his knees, he no longer paid attention to the other party, but said silently in his heart. He just signs in and recruits people. After this set of procedures is completed, are there any problems with the recruited people? Can you still eat? He doesn't care about it. After all, when he was recruiting people, he was already careful enough to control his own power to avoid accidentally crushing the first Ji Yusha master at Akatsuki, Master Sasori, to death. If Master Sasori is beaten up as a fool, then he can only change Nagato to a Akatsuki member. In his opinion, as long as the sign-in is completed, then this trip to the Kingdom of Wind is considered complete. Successfully signed into the Kingdom of Wind, congratulations to host for obtaining a pacifist design drawing. Successfully signed into Sasori of Akatsuki Red Sand. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 30% completion of the Whitebeard template and successfully activating Shock Fruit. Host, Tianyu. Sign in time, 10 years. Sign in location, Rain Country, Rain Shinobi Village, Fire Country, Wind Country. People who sign in at Akatsuki: Nagato, Conan, Uchiha Obito, Z, Kakuzu, Sasori of Akasago. Character template: 4 Emperors Whitebeard, 30% completion. Devil Fruit, Shock Fruit unawakened. Hockey, Armament Hockey inactive, Observation Hockey inactive, Conquerors Hockey inactive. As soon as the reward for signing in to the Red Sand Sasori, the completion of the Whitebeard template was increased by 30%, and Tianyu immediately opened the Whitebeard template. I found that the Shock Fruit column in the Whitebeard template has changed from the original inactive to unawakened. His 30% template completion. Is the Sasori value of the Red Sand really worth the price? Is it because Sasori of Akasha is the case cage killer and has killed the strongest case cage? The name of third case cages, the strongest wind shadow, has enough water content, and it has to be above the legendary ninja Kakuzu. Quote, seeing that Sasori signed into the Red Sand actually increased the completion of the Whitebeard template to 30%, Tianyu was a little shocked. How difficult is it to improve the completion of a 4 Emperors template? For him, who is extremely experienced in signing in, that couldn't be more clear. He signed in at Akatsuki for 10 years, and had to take the 2 sign-in locations of Rain Country and Rain Shinobi Village. This is enough to sign in the 4 Emperors template, Kaido, to 100% completion. But now, just signing into Sasori of Red Sand, the completion of the Whitebeard template has increased from 0% to 30%. This makes him have to doubt that the system will give sign-in rewards. It only depends on the record and the title, not at all. Water content. Otherwise, why does the system give more rewards when signing in Kakuzu and Sasori, 2 amazing members of Akatsuki, each with more water content? If the system is really as I thought, just looking at the record and the name, not the water content, then Orochimaru is not. Thinking of this, Tianyu's eyes couldn't help but light up. Legendary Ninja Kakuzu. Challenge the God of Ninjas, with 75% water content. Third case cage. The strongest wind shadow in ninja history, with 85% water content. Sarutobi Hiruzen. Konoha Village has the strongest Naruto in history, with a water content of 100%. In his opinion, looking at the world of ninja, whoever is the most astonishing water content is definitely Sarutobi Hiruzen, the 3rd Hokage. But it doesn't matter. Since the system doesn't look at the water content, even signing in to kill Sasori, the strongest wind shadow in the history of ninja, gave such a high sign in reward. What about Orochimaru of Sarutobi Hiruzen, who has the highest water content in the ninja world? With these thoughts, Tianyu almost couldn't help but go to Konoha to talk to Orochimaru. If the reward for signing in Orochimaru is as high as he thought, then he doesn't mind mastering his power more finely, so as not to kill Orochimaru in one blow. You won, but please respect me more or less. At least put your eyes and attention on me. Quote. At this time, Sasori's angry voice suddenly sounded. Obviously, after he calmed down, he saw Tianyu glance towards Konohagakure's direction even though Tianyu took the knife and shook it at him. This clearly did not put him in Master Sasori's eyes. Ah, I'm sorry, I just thought of an old friend, so I was distracted. What did you just say? Quote. Tianyu apologized insincerely. But after Red Sandy Sasori said so, he also remembered how to get a sign in reward. Pacifist. One of the masterpieces of Grand Line's first black scientist Vegapunk. It involves many sciences such as mechanics and life sciences. In the ninja world, to be able to use the rewards obtained from signing into the Kingdom of Wind to the fullest, he could only think about 25 Sons Orochimaru, Orphanage Dean Yakushi Kabuto, and Gua Sha Master Sasori. You guys really make people angry when you look at it. You didn't even look at me just now, wouldn't you be afraid that I would take the opportunity to attack you? Quote. When Sasori of Akasago heard it, it was even more uncomfortable. But when he said this, he almost couldn't help but slap himself. Fine, Master Sasori, if you want to attack, just do it. As long as you can shave a hair off of me, I lose. Quote. Sure enough, as soon as Master Sasori's voice fell, he heard what he didn't want to hear from Tianyu's mouth. I am Sasori of Akasago, not Master Sasori. Kill if you want, never want to humiliate me. Yes, the puppetry that I am proud of is indeed not worth mentioning in front of you. But the dignity of being the #1 puppet master in the ninja world, you can't even trample on it. Quote. Sasori gritted his teeth and growled. Isn't it just death? As the first member to release himself at Akatsuki in the future, Master Sasori has never been afraid of anyone. In any case, he is also the one who planned the Battle of the Atlantic in the future. If he was afraid of death, he wouldn't let Chio and Sakura drop himself in the Battle of the Atlantic. Is this anxious to die? You don't want to live, and then go and see the higher level of puppetry. Quote. Tianyu said with a smile but a smile. Isn't it just death? Just do it, I'm not afraid of Sasori. Wait, this pretty boy, did you mention a higher level of puppetry in your words just now? Halfway through the words of Sasori of Red Sand, he was startled to realize the higher level of puppetry mentioned in Tianyu's words just now. Although he had just used all the puppet techniques he had learned in his life, except for the title of Gua Sha Master, Master Sasori, even a layer of Tianyu could not be scratched, which made him feel ashamed of puppet techniques. But after all, he is a person who dedicated his life to puppetry. It didn't take long before he cheered up. Can't scrape Tianyu, it's not that puppet art can't do it, but that Master Sasori can't do it. That's right, that's it. Therefore, even if Tianyu talked about higher level puppetry, the pretty boys didn't say anything when they came, and they shouted with great enthusiasm. What do you say? Tianyu took out the reward for signing into the Kingdom of Wind, the pacifist design, then tore a page and threw it to Sasori of the Red Sand. How is this possible? How could there be such a sophisticated puppet in the ninja world? Not only is it invulnerable, it can attack from a distance, and it can fight in close combat. It does not need to be manipulated by a puppet master. It can also identify the enemy's hiss. I have never seen such a perfect masterpiece in my life. Quote. Who is Master Sasori? The first puppet master in the ninja world. A scientist who integrates mechanics and genetics. With the exception of Senju Tobarama, Orochimaru, and Yakushi Kabuto, no one in the ninja world can do it. Even if it's just a page in the pacifist design, he can get a glimpse of Madara. It was exactly the same, he was instantly shocked by the pacifists. If I told you that the creator of the pacifist is just an ordinary person who doesn't even know chakra, how would you feel? Tianyu's words made Sasori of the Red Sand horrified. Ordinary people. An ordinary person who can't even use chakra can design a puppet that even I can't design. Quote. Akasago no Sasori's eyes widened in amazement. Laugh. Tianyu did not speak, but tore a page from the pacifist's design and handed it to Sasori of Red Sand. Anyway, the pacifist's design is more than 100 pages, and he is not afraid that Sasori of the Red Sand will learn it now, and then turn his face and refuse to recognize people. This pacifist design was originally intended for Sasori of Akasha. If he is afraid, will he still take it out? Besides, isn't it a pacifist? What if Sasori succeeded in stealing his teacher? It's just a pile of scrap iron. Of course this is for him. For other ninjas, just pull out a pacifist, and without a detailed report, even a jonin may drink hatred in the hands of a pacifist. This puppet really doesn't have chakra at all. Sasori of Akasago quickly took over the second page of the design drawing and looked at it carefully. It just so happened that this page of blueprints gave him a better understanding of the pacifist puppet. So, do you understand what I mean? The pacifists created according to this blueprint do not have what chakra said. What if you join chakra on this basis? For example, pacifists will be able to use ninjutsu, illusion, physique, and even occult and blood inheritance limit. Quote. Tianyu looked at Sasori of the Red Sand with interest. This pretty boy, I haven't asked who your last name is. Akasago no Sasori took a deep breath, and then his handsome face burst into a smile that was unprecedentedly brilliant. Tianyu. This smile made Tianyu startled slightly. I have to say that although Master Sasori's output is really a bit of a shaw, but in terms of appearance, it is really impeccable, and it can even be said that it almost threatened his existence for a while. But it's okay. As for Master Sasori's convincing beauties, he is sure that he is better off. It turns out that your name is Tianyu, pretty boy, a good name. Having said that, just now I seemed to hear you say that a puppet master like me is predestined with you. I wonder if your organization is still recruiting people. If you do, what do you think of me? The first puppet master in the ninja world, once killed the strongest Funying in the past. I really didn't say it, just puppet art is fast, you really can't find a better puppet master than me in the ninja world. Quote. Sasori's smile became brighter. He started to recommend himself without waiting for Tianyu's answer, and tried his best to introduce his various skills. Not so good. The puppet didn't say anything, the output was still very shabby. Quote. Tianyu shook his head and said something. Seriously, he really didn't wrong Master Sasori. In terms of output, apart from Hidan at the bottom of the Akatsuki mission, no one can compete with Master Sasori for the second to last position. But Master Sasori is ashamed to compare with Hidan. Is Hidan playing output? This product is just a piece of meat. AC Bit is ashamed to compare the output with a meat. Therefore, the name of Gua Sha Master at Akatsuki, Master Sasori is well deserved. I'll join with Pei. Akasha no Sasori's smile is still bright. Great, what I have been looking for is such a talent as your excellency. Tianyu held the hands of Sasori of Red Sand, and the brightness of the smile on his face was not inferior to Master Sasori. This wave stabilized. Regardless of the fact that the pacifist maker is in place, Master Sasori still joined with Pei. Looking back, Nagato will definitely praise me fiercely when I know it. Not only is I able to play, I am pretty, but I am also very good at doing practical things for Akatsuki. Coincidentally, it just so happens that I have been looking for an organization with a handsome boy like Tianyu. Please be sure to let me join your organization. Quote. Sasori of the Red Sand also firmly grasped Tianyu's hand. This wave has also stabilized. Isn't it money? For the pacifist, let alone the paid joining, even if he sells himself, he is willing to do so. On behalf of Akatsuki, you are welcome to join. Facing the sincere Master Sasori, Tianyu was also slightly moved. Who doesn't like such enlightened wage earners? Nagato knew that when he praised him, he must have worked harder. Quote. Conan on the side looked at the two people who were still fighting each other a second, and then stopped making peace in the next second, with a subtle expression. I don't know if it is an illusion. She always felt that Nagato was really accurate. Otherwise, how can we pick out the legendary ninja Kakuzu and the first puppet master Sasori, the first puppet master, among the ninjas? One person can add money. One paid to join. Within a day, Akatsuki could harvest Wolong and Phoenix chicks at the same time. This is nothing short of Godsuke Nagato. TNU, since we are our own family now, then let's not talk to each other as a family. This pacifist design can also let me take a closer look. Quote. After arriving at Akatsuki with pay, Sasori of the Red Sand immediately glanced at the pacifist design that Tianyu held his mind. Good to say, for his family, Tianyu is still very good at talking. After all, compared with a series of 2 or 5 boys, such as 1,007, Kisame, and Ju, Master Sasori is at best just letting go when encountering an enemy. As long as it's not for 1,000 generations of mother-in-law, Sasori of Akasago can be regarded as loyal to his duties in most cases. Employees like Master Sasori can definitely be called a clear stream at Akatsuki when undercover agents and spies account for half of them. Not to mention, he thought from the beginning that pacifists would be handed over to Master Sasori. The blueprint is for you. I don't care how you want to study or modify it. But before the end of the month, I want to see the first pacifist come out at Akatsuki. Quote. Tianyu threw the pacifist design to Sasori of the Red Sand. No problem. Sasori of the Red Sand packs the ticket without thinking about it. There are all design drawings. Given his master Sasori's scientific research level that integrates genetics and mechanics, isn't it enough to have hands? What's more, the magical energy of chakra still exists in the ninja world. Used well, it can completely turn decay into magic. Tianyu, it's time for us to withdraw. There is so much noise here that Sand Shinobi, who is very close to this place, can't possibly fail to notice it. It is estimated that the group of Sand Shinobi will arrive soon. It might even come from Fengiying. Quote, seeing that Tianyu and Sasori of the Red Sand had a thorough negotiation, Conan also walked over and said. Sand Shinobi, she is not afraid. Although she hasn't reached the point where there are 600 billion detonating charms in one shot, she can still take out thousands of detonating charms in minutes. It's just that she didn't want to confront the 5 ninja villages at the beginning of the Akatsuki. Not to mention the tail catcher, even the 10 core members of Akatsuki are confronted with the 5 ninja villages before they are fully assembled. Why bother? It's all right, Fengiying. The last thing our organization is afraid of is Fengiying. Not to mention me, only Master Sasori, the Wind Shadow Killer. If Sunagaku's Wind Shadow really comes, let Master Sasori add another collection. It just so happens that I am very interested in the scenery of Sunagaku. After Master Sasori has prepared 4th cage, let's go to Sunagaku to take a look. What do you think? Quote. Tianyu wrote lightly. Fengiying, don't you know that he is known as the Wind Shadow Killer at Akatsuki, and Tionk all the shadows with wind characters. 3rd cage, the strongest in history, died at Akatsuki by the hands of Master Sasori. 4th cage Luo Sha, died at Akatsuki by the hand of Orochimaru. 5th cage Gaara, died at Akatsuki by the hands of Deidara. Sunagaku Fengiying passed down the 5th generation, among which the 3rd generation died at the hand of Akatsuki. In one sentence, if you don't kill Fengiying, you are embarrassed to say that you are a master at Akatsuki. It's Sasori, not Master Sasori. If Luasha comes, I will take care of it. Quote. Sasori of Akasha corrected. However, he had no resistance to Tianyu's arrangement. For Sunagaku, he has no sense of belonging. Except Chiyo, Sand Shinobi can be killed. Okay, Master Sasori. Tianyu nodded. Quote. Sasori of the Red Sand is speechless. You agreed, that's right. Forget it, for the sake of the pacifist design, he doesn't care about it. However, the name of Master Sasori can only be called by Tianyu. Others shouted that he would kill it. That's right. But you also have to think about Nagato. It is really not easy for him alone. You don't know the difficulty of starting a business. What's more, his goal was set so high as soon as he came. Don't give him a hell mode start when he started his business. Quote. Regarding Tianyu's suggestion of viewing the Sunagaku scenery, Conan was a little moved, but she still had to think about Nagato's situation for a while. As a past person, I have also started a career. Conan knows the difficulty of starting a business. Thinking of Nagato's hard work at home to make Akatsuki, and as a result, the Rain Shinobi village was surrounded by the 5 great shinobi villages before even 10 people were recruited. She immediately dispelled the idea of seeing the scenery of Sand Shinobi with Tianyu. Okay, Tianyu promised to forgive Nagato, but still looked reluctantly in the direction of Sand Shinobi. First I arrived in the country of fire, but I didn't go to Konoha to get a glimpse of the scenery. Soon after I arrived in the country of wind, I didn't go to Sand Shinobi for a walk. After passing through the door twice in a row and not entering, he felt that he was more or less impolite to Luasha and Sarutobi Hiruzen. Tianyu, if you really want to go to Sunagakur for a walk, it's not impossible. I have someone in Sand Shinobi, who can keep you from hiding Sunagakur's enchantment and perception, and go in for a stroll. At this time, Master Sasori, who received the pacifist design drawings, said. But before he finished speaking, he found that Conan had screwed up 2 boxes of detonation charms and surrounded him. Beautiful girl, can you give me another chance to reorganize the language? Master Sasori swallowed and said hard. She deserves to be a pretty girl who can follow Tianyu. Between these gestures are 2 boxes of detonating charms, really a man with big. Say, Conan stared at Sasori of the Red Sand blankly. Regardless of the purpose of the organization, I think it is better to withdraw now. After all, it is indeed a bit close to Sand Shinobi. Quote. Master Sasori said quickly. Very good. Conan put away the 2 boxes of detonating charms with satisfaction. Bold, my country of the wind is the one you know, come and leave if you want. Quiet Shao, you dare to plot against Sand Shinobi, I think you won't put me in your eyes. You don't need to go anywhere today, this oasis is the burial place of the 3 of you. Just as Tianyu, Conan, and Master Sasori were preparing to leave, the sand under their feet suddenly turned into golden dust. As soon as the dust appeared, it immediately rose from the ground like a snake, winding upward along the 3 people's bodies. The 3 of them were completely wrapped in an instant. Magnet-style gold placer burial. 1, 2, and 3 pyramids composed entirely of placer gold are suspended in the air. Each one is sealed with a member of Akatsuki. Good luck. Originally, I only planned to deal with Akatsuki, who was plotting against Sand Shinobi, but I didn't expect to meet the traitors in the village here. Quote. After all this was done, a red-haired figure wearing a blue hat with the word, 4, on his head slowly emerged from the dust everywhere. It deserves to be Sunagakur's 4th generation item, and it will seal all 3 Akatsuki members as soon as they make a move. It seems that a few of us can complete the task without even having to shoot. Quote. Not far away, a pupil with cold snake eyes clapped his palms and walked towards 4th Kazekage Rosha. At the same time, behind him were several Konoha shinobi. They are Aburame Ryoma, Hitaki Kakashi, and Yakushi Nanoyu. What Shao organization, but so. He even wanted to plot against Sand Shinobi, and he did not know how to live or die. Quote. Luo Sha snorted coldly. However, he also knew that the ability to seal the 3 Akatsuki members in one fell swoop, apart from accounting for the sneak attack, was the most important information provided by Orochimaru. If there is no information provided by Orochimaru, let him know the abilities of these 3 members of Akatsuki. Even if he attacked, he would not dare to say that he could win 100%. Let alone seal 3 in one go. Sasori of the Red Sand is a traitor to the village, and he was captured by you, Master Funying, so he should be handled by the village. But the other 2 Akatsuki, I hope Master Funying can give it to me. Quote. Orochimaru smiled. When the cold snake pupil looked at the pyramid that sealed Tianyu, a touch of greed that was not easily detectable emerged. No, I captured all 3 of them by myself, and your Konoha ninja has never even shown any strength. At best, I can only give you that Shao's woman. Quote. Luo Sha refused without hesitation. Not to mention that people are sealed by his own power, but just to say how Tianyu crushed the Sasori of the Red Sand just now, he has a panoramic view. Such a ninja is simply the nemesis of the puppet master. What's more frightening is that Tianyu can actually treat the magnet style that manipulates sand and iron as nothing. If it weren't for him, he didn't get inspiration from Shuhei and developed the magnet style technique with sealing ability. Ta Luo Sha's performance in front of Tianyu is definitely not much better than the Red Sand Sasori who manipulates the 3rd Kazekage puppet. A ninja who is both Sand Shinobi puppet technique and magnet style at the same time, how could he hand it over to Konoha because of a word from Orochimaru? Master Funying, what you said is a bit wrong. Haven't we already said it before coming? All Akatsuki's people will be handled by Konoha. For the fact that Master Fukuge really contributed a lot, plus the fact that Sasori of the Red Sand is Sand Shinobi rebellious, I am willing to hand him over to you. Master Fengiying, please don't take my politeness as cowardice. Quote. Orochimaru's snake eyes turned, staring at Luasha with a dangerous sight. The leader of the defeated village in a mere district, dared to turn back. Dare to negotiate terms with him. I don't know how to live or die. This time he took over Danzo's mission from the Kingdom of Wind, which was completely directed at Tenyu. How can Luasha grab food from his mouth? Orochimaru, you better figure out two things. 1. Here is the country of wind. 2. You are not Konoha's Hokage. If you want to make a request with me, let's wait for you to sit in the position of 5th Hokage. Quote. Luo Sha's face was cold. Orochimaru's condescending, completely seeing Sand Shinobi's tone below Konoha, how could he not hear it? In that case, Master Fengiying is determined to go back and forth. Orochimaru's snake Hitomi shrank, his expression a bit ugly. Although he didn't care about the position of Naruto for a long time, it is an indisputable fact that he lost to Orochimaru's disciple in the race for 4th Hokage. Now if no one else raises it by Luo Sha, isn't this tantamount to hitting him in the face? If you want to understand it this way, it's not impossible. Rosa is not afraid. He knows Namikaze Minato's character. There will never be a battle with Sand Shinobi for a few Akatsuki people. At most, it's just ridicule. Not to mention, he suspected that it was not Namikaze Minato at all, but Danzo, or even Orochimaru himself. Rosa. Orochimaru's snake pupil narrowed slightly, flashing a dangerous light. Following him, Aburame Ryoma, Hitaki Kakashi, and Yakushi Nanoyu seemed to be standing still, but in fact they all have tight muscles, like beasts preparing to prey. It's too boring to start an argument. Why don't you talk to me? The atmosphere between the two sides became extremely sharp, and when a fierce conflict might erupt at any time, a ridiculous voice sounded in vain. This sound not only broke the deadlock and resolved the tense atmosphere between Orochimaru and Luasha, but also changed the colors of Sand Shinobi and Konoha Shinobi in the oasis. Can you still speak? Luo Sha, who used the seal, turned around suddenly, staring at the middle of the 3 pyramids. His body is not strong enough to even the seal is invalid, right? Although Orochimaru's face changed slightly, Snake Eyes showed a touch of joy. Sure enough, it is really not easy for someone who can attract the attention of Danzo, the old yin coin, and even let him run to the Kingdom of Wind to cooperate with Luasha. However, this is more to his liking. Kaka. Under the gaze of Luasha, Orochimaru and others, thick and long cracks began to appear in the pyramid ceiling Tenyu. Luo Sha looked at it and couldn't sit still anymore. He hurriedly patted his hands on the ground. Magnet-style alluvial gold sealed. A large amount of placer gold continuously emerged from the oasis, and then quickly poured into the pyramid, making this pyramid more massive, stronger, and more powerful in its sealing ability. At this level, even Shuhei can't get rid of it. It should be. After strengthening the seal again, Luo Sha just breathed a sigh of relief, and the huge pyramid once again extended dense cracks. Click. Boom. This time, even if Luo Sha mobilized more placer gold to reinforce it, it was useless. A horrible force burst out of the pyramid, causing the pyramid to collapse completely in an irreversible direction. This quarrel is still too early for you. After all, it is far from the time to sit down and divide the spoils. Quote. Under the cover of alluvial gold, Tenyu's stalwart figure reappeared in the eyes of Orochimaru and others. Can the technique that is enough to seal Shohadu be unable to confine him? Luo Sha's face gradually became gloomy. He felt an unprecedented anxiety. So perfect. This is simply a masterpiece from heaven. Quote. Orochimaru's cold snake eyes burst into greed like never before, excited like a python, spitting out frantically. Such a body is simply what he dreams of. Looking at Tenyu, who was close at hand, he became more and more dissatisfied with his own broken body that was getting older and older. If it's not too late, he can't even help but do it now. Orochimaru. That's it. Danzo is still alive. Quote. Tenyu ignored Luo Sha, whose complexion became more and more ugly, but looked at Orochimaru with a playful look. Previously, when he found White Zetsu's chakra on Short Book Street, he had guessed. Now Orochimaru's appearance not only confirmed his guess, but he also saw more. Mr. Tianyu, you were right. Danzo did come back alive from the land of rain. If you want to kill him, then I can help you. Quote. Orochimaru nodded, a weird smile appeared on his face. Only you, Orochimaru, I wonder if you have heard a word. Quote. Tianyu looked down on Orochimaru condescendingly, a pair of dragon eyes gradually occupied by orangutan. The dragon does not live with the snake. An icy voice full of contemplation sounded, and the sky of the kingdom of wind exploded with a thunder. The sky and the earth began to blow violently. Endless sandstorms rose into the sky under the hurricane, turning into dust storms that obscure the sky, and terrifying desert storms that rushed straight into the sky. What kind of power is this? Can actually affect the astronomical phenomenon? Orochimaru, Kakashi and others couldn't help showing shock. What made a few people horrified even more was that a thought was surging, and Tianyu, whose heaven and earth's color changed, turned into a blue dragon that was hundreds of meters long and entangled in the sky. Dragon. The world has changed, the blue dragon is now. This scene stunned everyone. Orochimaru, hiding such an important thing from me. This Akatsuki member is actually a blue dragon. Quote. Luo Sha looked up at the blue dragon in the sky, only feeling dry for a while. Not to mention how terrifying Tianyu was after turning into a blue dragon, just how Tianyu beat Sasori in the red sand, when he was hiding in the barrier with Orochimaru just now, he could see it clearly. Third Cage's sand iron can't shake Tianyu's physical body, so it's absolutely the same after changing his sand gold. But when he glanced at the two stable pyramids beside him, his confidence was immediately enough. I didn't expect your excellency to be a blue dragon. Really a terrifying existence. But I advise your excellency to think about your companion first before you do it. Sasori, a traitor, you don't care about it. What about the other woman? Quote. Seeing that the two pyramids sealing Konan and Sasori of the red sand still remained motionless, Luo Sha immediately threatened with courage. You are the first person in my life who dared to threaten me. Tianyu's eyes turned, and the overwhelming conqueror's haki erupted like a mountain torrent, crushing on Luosha's body one after another. That's really an honor for me. Luo Sha trembled all over. Conqueror's haki of the Four Emperors class, although unable to stun Jonin, and the shadow that surpasses Jonin, it does not mean that the shadow can see Conqueror's haki as nothing. What's more, Tianyu, who has signed up to 30% of the completion of the Whitebeard template, is so powerful that he must be above Kaido. Even though it is as strong as 4th Cage Luosha, facing Tianyu's Conqueror's haki shock, there is also a feeling of dizziness and heavy eyelids. Pleasure. Let's wait for you to see what is sealed in the pyramid. Quote. A trace of sarcasm that was visible to the naked eye flashed through Tianyu's scarlet-colored eyes. Except for the traitor and Akatsuki's woman. Luo Sha hadn't finished speaking with certainty, and the desert not far away had broken open. Then, surrounded by a piece of sand and iron, a red-haired figure came into view. Playing magnet style in front of me, Sand Shinobi's first puppet. Luosha, you are still tender. Don't forget, who killed your teacher 3rd Cage. Quote. Whether it is the piece of sand iron that has no output or that almost threatens Tianyu's appearance, I'll tell everyone the identity of this man. Former Sand Shinobi's first puppet master. The current first Gua Sha master at Akatsuki. Master Sasori. Call out. Thousands of detonating symbols suddenly fell down like a vast expanse of white snow. Not only was it covered with several Sand Shinobi's whole bodies brought by Rosha in a blink of an eye, but they were also besieged. What is this? Boom. Before Luo Sha was rescued, the huge flame explosion engulfed the bodies of these Sand Shinobi. At the same time, a twinkle of white wings descended from the sky like an angel descending from the earth. Thousands of detonating talisman opened the way. Who can have money, except for the first rich woman at Akatsuki? You just attacked me once. Now we are fighting. Quote. Konan flew in the sky, his delicate and pretty face was full of evil spirits. You knew we were hiding in the dark. After witnessing the tragic death of his subordinate Sand Shinobi, Luo Sha was frightened and angry. Sasori of the Red Sand is first, then Konan. He still doesn't know what's going on. Speaking of unseen mice, I really knew a few of them were hidden in the ditch for a long time. Tianyu's calm voice exudes an aura of scowling and domineering. Good means, good intentions. Knowing that we are hiding in the dark, we have been pretending to be ignorant. It turned out to be against us. Quote, Luo Sha was a little bit anxious and growled again and again, but his eyes turned slightly. Obviously, his heart is not as angry as his appearance. Don't get me wrong, I am not talking about you in general. In fact, I don't even know that those mice are you. After all, who would bother with a few mice hiding in the ditch? As long as I don't jump out and trample in front of me, I will ignore it. But the mouse jumped out, whether it was one or two, it would be crushed to death. Quote, in a dull but haughty voice, a dragon claw shrouded in a terrifying black mist and surrounded by black lightning fell from the sky, sweeping the power of destroying the earth and suppressing Luasha. Akatsuki, don't be too mad. Sand shinobi funging is not something you can trample unscrupulously. Quote, hearing that Tianyu compared dignified fourth Kaido's self to a mouse in the ditch, Luo Sha was furious. Magnet-style hand of dust. I saw him pat his hands on the desert. Boom. With a loud noise, a big gold dust hand whose volume was not under Tianyu's dragon claws suddenly surged in the desert. Boom. However, when this big gold placer faced Tianyu's dragon claws, it collapsed at the touch of a touch and was instantly beaten into a ball of golden mud. Funging is only, who has killed it? Tianyu smiled disdainfully. The two dragon beards fluttered in the wind, and the dragon claws entwined with the armed color and conqueror's haki patted Luasha in a devastating posture. Orochimaru, when will you see? Luo Sha's complexion changed drastically, and she fled in embarrassment while she was casting sand, while shouting at Orochimaru who was not far away with her arms folded. Master Orochimaru, shall we just keep watching? If we don't make a move, Master Funging will soon be killed. Quote, Hatake Kakashi's face was stern. He could see it just by playing against it. Luo Sha, 4th Kaido, is vulnerable to the blue dragon at Akatsuki. Losa is dead, Xiao's Qinglong might not let us go. Pharmacist Yi Naiyu also said. Not urgent. Wasn't Luo Sha the Qinglong who asked us to know? Now I will give him the whole piece. Orochimaru smiled. Shot, who slapped him in the face just now? Now that you don't even call Orochimaru, you want him to help. No way. Anyway, he didn't care about Luasha's life or death at all. Even, he wished to be slapped to death by Tianyu's dragon claw. Is this really good? Seeing this, Kakashi and others didn't agree with it, but Danzo had already ordered it before leaving. This mission is based on Orochimaru. Even if they do not approve of Orochimaru's approach, they can only endure it. Luo Sha roared furiously, but he could only curse like that. Because Tianyu's dragon claw has been photographed in front of him. Magnet-style placer gold world method. Seeing this, he could only greet the Orochimaru family politely in his heart, and then he sealed his hands with lightning, manipulated the wave-like dust into a dense spike and inserted it on the oncoming dragon's claws. Puff. But this trick consumes a lot of Luo Sha, the placer gold realm that Chakra has only used, but even the skin of Tianyu's dragon claw can't be pierced. What kind of body is this? Luo Sha was so angry that she cursed. Placer gold realm. This is already his strongest move. As a result, even a layer of Tianyu could not be scraped. As Sunagaku rich and Gua Sha masters. This Funging line is really Gu Sha per capita. Quote. Tianyu sneered. The dragon claw smashed all the dust, and then drowned a few desperate Luo Sha. Boom. One claw fell, and the oasis was dismembered instantly by the cracks that stretched for more than a kilometer. As for Funging Luasha, it was completely covered by sand dust that was rolled hundreds of meters high. Quote. Seeing this, Sasori's expression on the side suddenly became a little subtle. Luo Sha feels, he understands. I really understand. Because a few minutes ago, he felt that way. He had scraped the sand iron into powder, and as a result, even the skin of Tianyu could not be scraped. He is so is Rosha. This made Master Sasori couldn't help but ask himself. Could it be that I, Sand Shinobi, is really a Gua Sha master? Threaten me, merely Funging, dare to threaten my Azure Dragon at Akatsuki. Don't you know that my line of Akatsuki is known as the Hand of Wind Shadow, and Tien has always suppressed all wind shadows? Quote. When Luo Sha was crushed into the ground like a fly, Tianyu took back the dragon claws with satisfaction. Funging. But how many people in Fan Xiao's organization have never killed Feng Ying? In the face of Feng Ying, Xiao's people never had enough points, even if they were afraid of it. Since I met today, of course I have to kill one. Is it unreasonable and reasonable to kill the wind and shadow of the Qinglong? Scoff. But just when Tian Yu's dragon claw was lifted lightly, the torn oasis rushed out of a wave of majestic dust. The placer gold stretched all the way along the dragon's claws like flowing water. In a blink of an eye, the body of the hundreds-meter-long azure dragon will be covered by God bless. Qinglong, today I bet Luo Sha on the name of Feng Ying, and I will let you remember one thing for the rest of your life. Never underestimate those sand shinobi who bear the name of Fenkage. Quote. Not far away, Luo Sha half-kneeled on the ground in ragged clothes and with shocking wounds all over her body. He raised his head and opened his eyes and glared at Tian Yu, and tried his best to manipulate the dust with both hands to wrap Tian Yu, bind him, or even pull it underground. Quote. The expression on Sasori's face is no longer subtle to describe, but weird. Luo Sha's words at this time, he is more familiar. He still vaguely remembers that not long ago, he also shouted similar words in front of Tian Yu. But the bet is not the name of Feng Ying, but the name of the first puppet. Although everyone bet on different titles, he knows that the result is absolutely the same. Boom. The Buddha was released for the purpose of confirming Master Sasori's thoughts. Tian Yu, who was entangled in the sky with dust, did not change his color, nor did he look at the dust covering his body like a python or a giant wave, but lightly expelled a breath of heat. Hundreds of meters high sand gold waves were instantly burned through, and then the heat enough to burn the mountains and boil the sea stretched across the void for kilometers, completely engulfing Luo Sha, who was full of anger and stunned face. Chapter 41. You just told me not to underestimate the shadow. Tian Yu, who had turned from the blue dragon form back to the human form, wandered to the face of the whole body of charred and incomplete bones. Quote. Master Sasori fixedly looked at the remains of Luo Sha. At this moment, he saw not only Luo Sha, but also Sasori of the Red Sand, who refused to join the Akatsuki organization. If he didn't see the situation badly, and applied for the Akatsuki organization in a timely and decisive manner, then the skeleton lying next to Luosha would definitely have to add another one. Slap. It really is Tian Yu Jun. You are simply the most perfect existence I have ever seen, no one. Quote. From the outbreak of the war, Orochimaru, who had been watching with folded arms, suddenly clapped his hands gently and walked towards Tian Yu unhurriedly. Every time he took a step, the greed in Snake Eyes became stronger. When he came to Tian Yu, his tone, expression, and greed in his eyes almost all spilled into the air. I don't like the look in your eyes. Tian Yu frowned slightly, and the dragon eyes burst out with a scarlet glow. What Orochimaru thinks, even if his observation haki is not strong enough to listen to everything. It seems that this reptile has already embarked on the path of seizing the body, and has even researched living corpse reincarnation. Yes, that's really a pity. Because of Tian Yu, everything about you will soon belong to me. At that time, you will always be one with me who you don't like. Quote. Orochimaru spoke, sticking out his tongue and licking the corner of his mouth like a snake spitting out a letter. Just you. The scarlet light of Tian Yu's eyes became more and more intense. His emotional changes let the Buddha affect the celestial phenomenon, and it was instantly transmitted to the sky. The clouds, which were thick enough to let the Buddha fall down, became more drowsy and more depressing. The storm that ravaged this area has become more and more violent. Hehe, you were right. Just me. Before Orochimaru's voice fell, Aburame Ryoma, Hitaki Kakashi, and Yakushi Nanoyu all jumped up at the same time. First a sneak attack, and then 4 more. I didn't expect that so many of you combined would be worse than me alone. Quote. In the face of the Kakashi 3 who suddenly started, he still didn't change his face, standing in place with a calm posture. As if he did not look at the Kakashi trio from beginning to end. In other words, he has never looked at any enemy on the scene. Sasori, do it. When Konan saw this, he immediately shouted at Sasori of Akasha. But when she just wanted to do it, Tian Yu stopped her. It's okay, Konan. It doesn't matter whether the dust removed is 1 or 4, it makes no difference. Quote. In Tian Yu's nonchalant voice, Haki, the horror of watching the world exudes. Whether it's Orochimaru, who is an enemy, or Master Sasori, who has become his own, he is shocked by this kind of courage. Akatsuki Qinglong. Are all the people in the organization as strong as him? Master Sasori couldn't help asking Conan. I can only tell you that. Our leader is the god who owns Rinnegan, and the teammate arranged for you by the organization is a legendary ninja who has challenged the god of ninja. Quote. When Conan heard this, Sasori said with a serious face. There was one thing she said, but she was telling the truth, and she didn't mean to fool Master Sasori at all. It's just that she never thought that whether it is Nagato, the god who owns Rinnegan, or Kakuzu, the legendary ninja who has challenged Senju Hashirama, all have amazing water content. Isn't this the level of the god of ninja per capita? What kind of organization is Akatsuki? The background is so big. Quote. Even if Conan doesn't know, Master Sasori is even more unlikely to know. So, at first hearing Conan said this, he was immediately scalp numb by the powerful cards of Akatsuki. At the beginning, he had the first puppet master of his own dignified tolerant world, and he joined an unknown Shao organization, and he really wronged his idea. But looking back now, he found that he seemed to be climbing a little high at Akatsuki. At least the per capita power value of the god of ninja, he is definitely lowered. Seal technique seal of 4 directions. Just when Master Sasori thought that he had finally found the right organization, Hatake Kakashi, Yakushi Nanoyu and Aburame Ryoma on the other side had teamed up with a shadow clone of Orochimaru to complete the sealing technique. Starting from 3 people standing in the 4 directions of east, south, west, and north, and a shadow clone, a tetragonal enchantment shining with bright green light has trapped Tianyu. Mr. Tianyu, I want your body. Seeing this, Orochimaru could no longer contain the greed in his heart. A white snake sage flew out from his mouth suddenly, wrapped in a fishy wind, and flew towards Tianyu, who was imprisoned by the seal of the 4 directions. How many tails did you drink? So drunk. Tianyu's scarlet dragon eyes stared at Orochimaru coldly. The look in his eyes is basically a blue dragon entrenched for 9 days looking down at an ugly reptile that does not know the height of the sky. As long as there are a few peanuts, you won't be drunk like this. The cold voice of disdain fell, and Tianyu's body changed again under the shocked eyes of Orochimaru, Kakashi and others who turned into white snake sage. Tianyu under normal conditions was originally nearly 2 meters tall. Such a height is naturally only the per capita altitude on the Grand Line. If it can be placed in the shinobi world, that's terrible. Like his appearance and strength, that is the existence of disdain for Kunrin. Now, his body has changed again. Although he is not as scary as he was when he transformed into a 100-meter-long Qinglong, his height is also as high as 4 meters. The black knife Kong Yunchi, which was originally in his hand, became like a long knife. Of course, none of this is important. What really moved everyone present was Tianyu's transformation this time, which not only maintained the human form, but also had the characteristics of a blue dragon. Bathed in the blue dragon-shaped blue light falling from the sky, Tianyu's head grew dragon horns, his body was covered with dragon scales, his hands and feet were turned into dragon claws, and a slender dragon's tail was extended behind him. Obviously his current size is far less than that of a giant in the form of a blue dragon, so overbearing. But compared to the blue dragon form, the breath exuding from the drastically shrunken human dragon form in front of us, gave people a more terrifying feeling. Can you transform? Tianyu, who changed from a human form to a human dragon form, shocked everyone. They didn't expect that Tianyu could transform again in addition to the human posture and the form of the blue dragon. The most important thing is that every time he sees Tianyu in the form of a human dragon, an idea sprouts in his heart. The terrifying degree of Tianyu in the form of human dragon is even higher than that of blue dragon. This is not everyone's illusion. Because of transforming into a human dragon form, Tianyu not only maintains the human body shape, but also possesses the overwhelming strength, defense, speed of the blue dragon, as well as near immortality, vitality and recovery ability. Scoff. After the transformation, everyone saw that Tianyu first looked down at his dragon claw-shaped hands, and then he raised his hand and waved forward. That action, that posture, seemed to be pulling away a fly. However, it was just such a simple action. A shadow clone in Orochimaru, Kakashi, Aburame Ryoma, and Yakushi Nanoyu's 4-part seal were put together and shattered like paper. What? Having turned into White Snake Sage, Orochimaru's pupils not far from Tien shrank. The quartet seal can't trap Tien. He is still very compelling at this point. But he never expected that the quartet seal could not hold on to a face-to-face encounter in front of Tien. This made Orochimaru, who only wanted to take Tien's body, had the idea of retreating in his heart for the first time. But this idea was fleeting. How strong is his physique? My living corpse reincarnation is a ban on the soul. As long as there is no summoning soul technique, and the spiritual energy is not strong enough, in front of my living corpse reincarnation, it is nothing more than an external force. Quote. After doing psychological work for a while, Orochimaru decided to bite it down at Tien. Scoff. However, the next scene made Orochimaru almost desperate. After Tien tore the seal between his hands and feet, his body was covered with a thick black fog, and at the same time, the black lightning released the Buddha as a celestial phenomenon, bowing to him, the king, and winding around him, as if worshipping. Immediately afterwards, he raised the dragon's claw and grabbed it forward. Boom! White Snake Sage was firmly pinched in his hand. No matter how hard Orochimaru struggles, he can't get rid of Tien's dragon claws, let alone use living corpse reincarnation to seize Tien's body. What kind of power is this? Why can't I take your body away? Quote. Orochimaru shivered in horror and anxiety. After witnessing Tien's unmatched strength and physique, he still sat confidently watching Luo Sha being killed. This confidence was all given to him by living corpse reincarnation. However, White Snake Sage, who can directly destroy human souls, can't break away from Tien's palm. He can feel that there are two terrible powers pervading Tien's dragon claws, blocking him out of the body. It must be very difficult for you to give up taking away my body. It doesn't matter, you can continue to hold on, leave a White Snake Sage, and then retreat. Quote. Tien pressed White Snake Sage with his left hand, and with his right hand pulled out the black knife Kong Yunchi that had been on his back. Do not. Under Orochimaru's desperate and collapsed gaze, the black knife Kong Yunchi holding Tien's hand abruptly fell. Ping a skill, Thunder 8 trigrams. Once played Uchiha Obito out of the shadows, and even almost gave up Madara addiction, the Flatta technique reappeared. But this time Tien was not using a mace that he picked up casually, but a supreme sharp knife, and it was a supreme sharp knife refined into a black knife. When the blade cut by black knife Kongyun was 10 centimeters away from Orochimaru's head, it stopped abruptly. Armament Haki and Conqueror's Haki, who can be wrapped around the blade, exploded toward Orochimaru's forehead. Boom! Accompanied by the loud noises, the waves of Haki shook the desert with a radius of more than a kilometer into countless plates of sand and rocks, and then the desert began to sink downwards. At the same time, the clouds above, no, even the entire sky also appeared a terrifying sinkhole. As for Orochimaru, of course, the entire White Snake Sage was beaten up. Master Orochimaru, after being affected by the shock of Conqueror's Haki and the armed color, the pharmacist Yi Naiyu, who flew 100 meters away, climbed up, and suddenly saw a vast desert on the barren ground, quietly paralyzed by a broken into nearly 100 pieces. White phosphorus snake carcass. Even the forbidden technique to seize the body can be developed. Konoha Sannin, so terrible. Quote. At this time, Tien took a deep look at the white phosphorus snake corpse, and slowly withdrew the black knife Kong Yunchi with his right hand. Quote. Akasha no Sasori's expression froze. Can't you Qinglong speak some human words? The words are terrible. The result is one mouthful, one wind shadow, one sword and 1-3 forbearance. How can I tell when Orochimaru is in front of you, what is scary? Puff. Just when Hatake Kakashi and others were a little at a loss because of Orochimaru's death, a small white snake suddenly emerged from the desert, and then quickly merged into Orochimaru's body that was limp on the ground because of White Snake Sage's departure. After a while, the lifeless body stood up again. But everyone could see that Orochimaru's breath had fallen to the bottom compared to before. Is this still alive? Those of you Konoha shinobi who have the name of Sannin, are really as strong as monsters. Quote. Tien exclaimed slightly. Although it was only a Flatta skill, he did not try his best, but it was not waiting for the idle generation to follow. Killing a Hanzo with a stab is still not a problem. Even if it is Wong Luffy face to face, he has to move his head, there is no chance of a prison situation. But Orochimaru still lingered after using his face to accept the flatta technique he used with the black sword Kong Yunch. I have to say that Konoha shinobi like Sannin are really as strong as monsters. Orochimaru, who was originally pale, turned black when he heard Tien Yu's words. Give me such a high evaluation, and almost chopped me to death with a single knife. I really thank you. No, the knife hasn't been cut down yet, there is still a decimeter away from my front door, if it is cut down. Thinking of this, Orochimaru felt sweaty. Orochimaru, as one of the legendary 3 ninjas, you are too powerful. Sorry, I can't let you be at ease. The solemn and cold voice fell, and Tien Yu people had disappeared in place. Before Orochimaru had time to make any response, Tien Yu had already pushed him on the desert. When Orochimaru watched Tien Yu push his head on the desert with a dragon claw, and instantly rolled up the sandstorm with a height of hundreds of meters, the whole person was stunned. See what your dragon is talking about. When you said this, did you really have no idea in your heart? Where is my power too strong? Obviously you can push what I have become White Snake Sage with one hand, and now you push me on the desert with another hand. My name is too powerful. What is your special name? So, I invite you, Sannin, to die here today. Tien Yu pressed Orochimaru on the ground with his left hand and raised his right hand high. After Orochimaru took the initiative to jump out, he was able to sign in the Akatsuki member at any time. Is Orochimaru dead? Still alive? It doesn't matter to him. It just so happened that Orochimaru's greedy look just made him feel uncomfortable. He doesn't care whether Akatsuki will be stronger after recruiting Orochimaru, and whether the pacifists of the Ninja World version will be upgraded to be more perfect, so he skips the step of recruiting. Reikiri. Seeing Orochimaru was dying by the hands of Tien Yu, the fastest Hatake Kakashi finally arrived carrying Reikiri. With the 3 Tomo Sharingan left by Uchiha Obito to him, he instantly locked Tien Yu, like a flash of thunder piercing through the sky, and instantly pierced Tien Yu's heart with Reikiri. Secret technique Insect Jade. At the same time, the worm, which was only half a beat slower than Kakashi, also climbed onto Tien Yu's body under the control of Aburame Ryoma. The last pharmacist Yi Nayu who rushed over held the chakra operation and directly pierced the center of Tien Yu's eyebrows. Triple attack, all hits one after the other. But whether it was Hatake Kakashi who arrived first, Aburame Ryoma who arrived second, or Yakushi Nanoyu who arrived last, none of them showed any joy on their faces. This. Kakashi stared blankly at Reikiri in his hand. Since the development of Reikiri, he has never encountered something impenetrable, and he met today. Tien Yu's flesh and blood carried his Reikiri unscathed. Aburame Ryoma staggered back a few steps. Others didn't know, but he heard it clearly. The worms who were biting Tien Yu's body all sent the same message without exception. My mouthparts are all knocked out. Can't chakra scalpel break through the surface of the body? Pharmacist Yi Jian chakra scalpel couldn't pierce Tien Yu's eyebrows at all, his pretty face was horrified and moved. This is the first time she has encountered this situation. In fact, she is not afraid of strong people at all. After all, no matter how strong the body is, the inside is still extremely fragile. Coincidentally, her chakra scalpel specializes in internal organs. But now when the chakra knife she was holding touched Tien Yu's eyebrows, it was blocked outside the body, unable to extend out of the head at all. Reikiri, worms, and medical ninjutsu. You Konoha shinobi are really scary. Tien Yu kept his right hand held high, but the daunting deep black mist appeared again in his body. This is Conqueror's Haki is wrapped around the body. Scoff. Facing Conqueror's Haki, who was biting him, all the worms who were biting him were shaken to death on the spot. There is no chance to quit tooth addiction. Call out. Immediately afterwards, Tien Yu's dragon tail swept away, and the black mist and lightning entwined with amazement suddenly drew on Hatake Kakashi and Yakushi Yi Nayu. Puff. The bodies of Yakushi Yi Nayu and Kakashi were like popped balloons, exploded into a cloud of blood, like a broken kite, which flew upside down and fell on the desert. They glided all the way for 500 to 600 meters before they barely stopped. Come down. Get 2, and 1 more. Tianyu still showed no sign of releasing Orochimaru, nor did he put down his raised right hand. He just glanced at Aburame Ryoma from a distance. The surrounding air suddenly rippled with water ripples visible to the naked eye. Conqueror's haki hit Aburame Ryoma like a raging sea, a flash flood and a tsunami. As Danzo's right and left hand, although he was not stunned on the spot, he was also shocked by Tianyu's Conqueror's haki and stared at Venus and lost his mind on the spot. Boom! When he returned to his senses, a mouthful of heat that made the air sticky had already burned him, including people and insects. When the three elite Jonin joined forces, they couldn't hold on to even one round. Being pressed by the dragon's claws on the desert, Orochimaru, who could only open a snake pupil, saw this scene, and his hair was horrified. Even if he tried his best to eliminate the Kakashi trio, it would take a lot of time. Like Tianyu, staying on the spot, defeating the Kakashi trio's cooperation in a single encounter, and still crushing it in a destructive posture, how can this not make Orochimaru's heart beat? It's your turn. After a bit of heat burned Aburame Ryoma to death, Tianyu's gaze shifted back to Orochimaru. With a sneer, the raised right hand burst out with pitch-black lightning. Wait, don't you want to kill Danzo? I can help you. He is behind this mission. And I have someone in Konoha. If you want, I can let you walk up to Danzo without disturbing any enchantments or ninjas. Quote. Orochimaru's face turned pale, and although his body was struggling and twisting with all his strength, he couldn't escape Tianyu's dragon claws at all. Quote. Sasori of Akasago always feels this as familiar. I seem to have heard it somewhere. No need, behind the scenes. I know better than you. Tianyu heard the words, and a figure with a scarlet Sharingan flashed before his eyes. Orochimaru only saw the first floor, but he had already seen the third layer. Regarding Orochimaru's words, he was unmoved, and directly opened the right hand entwined with the black lightning, and slammed Orochimaru down like a hook. Pretty boy, keep a snake under his palm. I also have a relationship with Akatsuki. Quote. As soon as Orochimaru finished speaking, Tianyu's dragon claws had already hit his face. Half of his body turned to ashes on the spot. Sorry, our organization has always only recruited rebellion. Tianyu said to the half-body of Orochimaru, neither salty nor indifferent. Puff! Suddenly a wet Orochimaru emerged from half of Orochimaru's body. Beautiful boy, isn't it just a betrayal? My biggest dream in Orochimaru's life is to be a traitor. Quote. When Tianyu saw it, he was about to do it again, but Orochimaru's eyes were quick and his mouth was quick, and he snapped and said at a faster speed than lightning style. Tianyu, or don't do it first. Let me finish it. Quote. At this moment, Conan also came over. You know how short the organization is. I think Orochimaru is pretty good. After all, I can get you a ninja who is as strong as a monster, but Orochimaru is the only one at present. If he really wants to join, you might as well consider it. As he said, he is indeed related to us at Akatsuki, otherwise, how could he come from the country of fire thousands of miles to the country of wind to give you a favor? Quote. She whispered in Tianyu's ear, but gave the decision to Tianyu. Master Sasori and the legendary ninja Kakuzu don't know, can she still know? The leader of this Akatsuki is Nagato, yes, but the real person is Tianyu. If Tianyu really wants to send Orochimaru away, it will be her, Yahiko, and Nagato who can't keep it together. Creak. When Orochimaru was pressed by Tianyu under the dragon's claws, he saw Conan coming over. He immediately seized the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity and took off the forehead protector symbolizing the Konoha shinobi from his head with the speed of lightning and flint, and then placed a ninja mark on the forehead protector. Draw. That fluent movement is absolutely impossible for Lao Renren who hasn't decades of experience to do it. Do you really want to be a traitor? Seeing this, Conan's pretty face also moved slightly. She is also someone who has seen the world. It is clear that every ninja in Ninja Village, they treat their ninja forehead protector as a treasure. Not a last resort, few ninjas are willing to make that cut on their forehead protector. Not to mention the three ninjas with high weight in Konoha like Orochimaru. Beautiful girl, can you let this pretty boy let go first? Not to mention that Jun Tianyu's strength is the best in the ninja world, even if the god of ninja is born again. Just here are 3 Akatsuki members. Could it be that my little Konoha Renin can slip away under your noses? Quote. Seeing Conan coming, Orochimaru exhaled suddenly in his heart as he could move Tnu. Even if he is killed twice, he can be resurrected. But in fact, there is not much chakra in him. After all, most of his power is concentrated on White Snake Sage. But White Snake Sage was flattened by Tnu's skill. Thunder 8 trigrams was blown up. The big snake flow body replacement technique just now was the last chakra left in his body. If Tnu gives another hand, then his former 4th Hokage candidate will really go to meet Konoha's ancestors of Hokage. You have a minute to convince me. Tnu thought of Nagato's face that was becoming thinner in order to nucleate the ninja realm, and couldn't help feeling compassionate in his heart. Never mind. As the saying goes, the grace of the spring should be reported by dripping water. Nagato worked hard to raise him for 10 years, but never asked him to reciprocate. At the moment, Nagato only has to recruit 10 people at Akatsuki, collect tail beasts, and nucleate such a small ninja dream in the ninja world. From the perspective of Nagato, it is not impossible to give Orochimaru a chance to join the organization. The premise is that Orochimaru will speak well enough later. Thanks. After Tnu released his hand, Orochimaru immediately stood up. He patted his face and the sand on his clothes first, then arranged his appearance, and when his cold snake pupil became melancholy enough, he met the gazes of Tnu and Conan. Mr. Tnu, give me a chance. I didn't have a choice before, now I just want to be a betrayal. Quote. Orochimaru didn't say all sorts of crazy things, only 2 words full of frankness and hope. But his few words made his helplessness exhausted. He didn't want to be shot to death by Tnu, he just wanted to be a traitor. Mr. Tnu, pretty girl, please give me a chance to join the Shao organization when I am lost. After speaking, Orochimaru slowly bent down towards Tnu and Conan. Tnu, even though Orochimaru was a bit hip-struck just now, how he said it was also one of the legendary 3 forbearances. Since he is willing to get lost and is willing to reform and rehabilitate, I think he might not be a qualified traitor in the future. Just treat me as a face and give him a chance to be an intern. Quote. What Tnu thinks, Conan doesn't know. She only knew that her thoughts were very accommodating at this time. Back then, when she, Nagato, and Yahiko met Orochimaru for the first time, they were almost killed by this cruel Konoha shinobi. However, 30 years in Hidong, 30 years in Hexi. Don't bully the girl. Now she is rich and can raise a man. Even Orochimaru, who was already expensive as Konoha Sannin, could only call her a pretty girl, begging her to give her a chance to join Akatsuki. With such a huge contrast, with such exhalation and raising her eyebrows, can she not be cool? Quote. Orochimaru smiled like a flower, letting Ant Buddha and Snake possess his body. The words in Conan's mouth are really hip, intern and other fonts, he can't hear a word. Well, it depends on your face, and he does have the idea of reforming and rebehave, then I will give him an internship for the time being. Tnu pondered for a while, and finally nodded under the gaze of Orochimaru, who was almost crying with joy. He really simply gave Conan a face, and it had nothing to do with the 2 extra bundles of detonating charms that had just come out in his pocket. You heard that too, Orochimaru. The organization is well organized and hierarchical. I can only help you here. Whether you can become a full-time intern and become a qualified Akatsuki member in the future depends on your own performance. Quote. Conan said lightly, seeing that Tnu gave herself face so much in front of outsiders, at an angle that Orochimaru couldn't see, she stuffed 2 bundles of detonation charms into Tnu's pocket. Thank you, pretty girl. After joining the organization, I will definitely work hard and strive for an early conversion. Quote. Orochimaru was grateful to Conan. Where are those 2 guys? I think the 2 of them still have a sigh of relief. Should they be included in the organization like Orochimaru? Quote. At this moment, Master Sasori, who had been silent all the time, saw Tnu and others settled and agreed to Orochimaru's application to join the group, and couldn't help asking. Although he is 1 level higher than Orochimaru, he is an official member like Tnu and Conan as soon as he enters. However, I have already learned from Conan that the members of Akatsuki are at the level of a ninja god per capita, and he knows that he has not reached the standard at all. He dare not call the shots without authorization. No need. The number of official members of Akatsuki is limited, there are only 10 in total. Although in addition to regular members, there are places for internships, but not all cats and dogs are eligible to join Akatsuki. Quote. Conan glanced at Kakashi and Yakushi Yino, who were lying in the desert in the distance, covered in blood. The two of them are indeed still alive. Understood. Master Sasori glanced at the intern Orochimaru, and understood in seconds. Even the legendary Sannin is only worthy of being an intern. At Akatsuki, the threshold for full membership is so high that Madara can be seen. Seeing this, Master Sasori still doesn't understand that when he comes, he will have a staff and become a full-time official. In all likelihood, it's good fortune to meet Tien. In addition, he not only speaks nicely, but also happens to make and study peace. The best choice for activists. Otherwise, in Akatsuki's organization that randomly pulls out a member that can fight the ninja war, his Master Sasori is really not ranked, let alone has an organization. After clarifying his thoughts, he also felt that the copying ninja Kakashi and the walking shrine pharmacist Nanoyu were indeed characters in the vast ninja world, but if he wanted to join Akashi, it was indeed a little bit meaningless. Not to mention the official staff with the establishment and the ring, even if they only become interns with a set of Akatsuki uniforms, they are far from reaching the standard. Pretty girl, since you don't plan to let them join the organization, then I suggest that you better dispose of them. Although Konoha's senior management should already know the existence of the organization, if the two do not want to expose more, they still have to do what they should do. Quote. Sasori of Akasago proposed to Conan to make up the knife. As for Akatsuki, it has long been exposed, and when Konoha's senior officials learned, he didn't think there was anything wrong with it. An organization that is capable of fighting the ninja god on average, no matter how careful it is to hide, it is hard not to attract the attention of the 5 ninja villages. Not to mention that he looks at Tien and Conan acting without being low-key and hiding. One move turns into a hundreds-meter-long blue dragon, changing the celestial phenomenon in one thought. One starting hand as thousands of detonating talisman to smash people. Expose. Isn't this reasonable? What's more, in his opinion, with the strength of the organization, exposure is nothing. When Conan heard the words, the head slightly. She still understands the importance of making up a knife. During the 10 years of raising Tien, the man he raised has often talked to her about popular science. There is nothing to say, the rich woman's hands are always so simple and unpretentious. Even if it is a make-up knife. I saw her who agreed with Master Sasori's proposal of making up the knife, and took out 10,000 detonating charms on the spot. This action immediately scared Orochimaru and Master Sasori on the spot. As for, it's just to make up for the 2 Konoha shinobi who have only one breath alive. Is it 10,000 detonating charms to start with? And many more. It doesn't matter if you want to kill pharmacist Yi Nayu. But this Kakashi will never die in your hands. Quote. Tien reached out and grabbed the detonation charm Conan took out. Although he was talking while receiving the 10,000 detonating charms in Conan's hand into his pocket, he was really thinking about Conan instead of taking the opportunity to fill his own pockets. Why? Conan's pretty face was puzzled. Don't ask why, it's the guy who opened up. Tien didn't explain much either. After all, before Might Guy opened up and turned into the King of Guy, who would have thought that Konoha's physical ninja could kick the ninja god with his foot? He didn't want Conan to hear Yi Guy suddenly when he went out one day. With Conan's strength, it is estimated that even yelling before death, among the ninjas I have seen, there is no better than you, and I will not have the opportunity to call you the strongest at Akatsuki. Orochimaru, they are your subordinates and you brought them. Take care of your own business. Quote. After Tien grabbed Conan, he turned his head and ordered Orochimaru. That night Guy's kick, Conan was blessed to endure it. Let's change Orochimaru. Anyway, an intern was kicked to death just to make room for Akatsuki. Don't tell me, if Might Guy learns that Kakashi died by Orochimaru's hand, and he really brings Yi Guy to the door and kicks Orochimaru to death, then he will laugh out loud in his dreams. After all, in the era when the 6 paths are not out, there are really few people in the world who can get a tie with him. The King Guy with the 8 gate fully open is not only one, but also the only one that can truly threaten his existence. Anyway, before signing the Whitebeard template to 100% completion, he couldn't guarantee that he would be able to turn the 8 gate and open the Guy King. This is also the reason why he never thought that he was a strong person in the ninja world. If it is said that a punch to death of a Hanzo, in the ninja world, he has the power to protect himself. That lossless night guy can only be called a strong in the ninja world. That's right, this is Tianyu's view on the power of self-protection and the strong. Orochimaru was startled. If Tianyu didn't say to stop Conan just now, and if he asked what he said, it would be that the Emperor guy opened up, then it would be really not a problem to ask him to kill Kakashi. As Kakashi's elder, he is still obligated to send him to reunite with White Fang. But Tianyu's phrase, Guy Emperor, has become big, but it is like a bone gangrene, and it is deeply rooted in his heart when it comes. Whenever he was born to kill Kakashi, he always had a lingering shadow. It seemed that as long as he swung that knife at Kakashi, something terrible would happen. Take care of your own business. Is it possible that you, an intern, still have to be a full-time member to wipe your ass? Quote. Tianyu took it for granted. 8-Gate kicked Orochi all the way, and he thought it smelled so good. By the way, I have to talk to Nagato when I look back. Orochimaru, an intern, doesn't need to be regular. Anyway, it's gone if you turn to a normal position. But, Orochimaru wanted to say something, but Tianyu didn't give him a chance to quibble at all. If you don't do it, I will send you to reunite with White Fang. Tianyu didn't change his face, and wrote lightly. In that tone, letting the Buddha squeeze an Orochimaru to death is easier than squeezing an ant to death. After he finished speaking, he glanced at Master Sasori if nothing happened. What a meaningful look. Orochimaru, you better remember a little. Your status as an intern, but the pretty girl asked for it for you. Don't let down the kindness of the pretty girl. Quote. Master Sasori suddenly hit a violent spirit, and quickly revealed third cage, manipulating a large piece of sand and iron that obscured the sky and surrounded Orochimaru. Tianyu's eyes, he understands. As a full member of Akatsuki, he feels it is necessary for him to stand up and teach the intern Orochimaru a lesson. Okay, I'll kill. Before and after Tianyu, Sasori of the Back Red Sand. An intern in Orochimaru, what else? Even if he knows that Hatake Kakashi is a pit, but is there someone more suitable for stepping on the pit than his intern? No matter how aggrieved, resentful, and uneasy in his heart, he can only walk towards Hatake Kakashi in his hand. Laugh. When Orochimaru passed by the pharmacist No, there was nothing to say, but the knife fell with his hand. Born to speak of blood and background, it would be so sad to have no pharmacist Nayu. But when it was Hatake Kakashi's turn, Tianyu's words were like Shinigami's life-death screaming, lingering in his heart. It seems you are in pain. Tianyu reached out and patted Orochimaru on the shoulder. Conqueror's haki wrapped in the palm of his hand burst out. Humph. Orochimaru rolled his eyes and fell into a state of loss for an instant. Master Sasori, please help him. Tianyu said to Sasori of Red Sand. Call out. Sasori of Akasago, who outputs Ji Sha, but is talented in not doing human affairs, immediately opened his 5 fingers and shot 5 chakra threads around Orochimaru's body. With the beating of his 5 fingers, Orochimaru was manipulated by him like a puppet to walk to Kakashi, and then raised kunai and plunged into his heart. Kamui, Hatake Kakashi, who had been lying quietly in the desert, suddenly opened a Sharingan with only a weak breath. When the scarlet light flashed, his 3 Tomo Sharingan had been connected in a line and became Mangekyo Sharingan. At the same time, his gaze was fixed on Orochimaru's head. Click. Kamui made a sneak attack with all his strength, and the twisted space instantly smashed Orochimaru's head. Did it only kill the Akatsuki intern Orochimaru? It's a pity. I wanted to leave this blow to the Blue Dragon, and no matter how bad it is, I will leave it to the woman. At least she is also a full member of Akatsuki. Quote. A trace of regret flashed by Mangekyo Sharingan of Hatake Kakashi. He heard some of the conversations among Tianyu. Orochimaru, the legendary Konoha Sannin, joined Akatsuki as an intern. Before he died, he used the last shot of Kamui to take away an intern, and not long ago, this intern was Konoha Sannin, his immediate boss. No matter what he thinks, he feels that he has suffered a lot from this wave of operations. Puff. The regret in Kakashi's eyes quickly freezes, and Mangekyo Sharingan's look quickly fades. Because just when he unscrewed Orochimaru's head, Orochimaru's karma was inserted into his heart accurately. Obviously, Kakashi only wrung out Orochimaru's head, not the chakra thread connecting Orochimaru's body. Naturally, this will not affect the operation of Master Sasori's frantic click on the compensation button. Having said that, Kakashi's shot of Kamui before his death surprised several members of Akatsuki. Conan was startled. Master Sasori was also dumbfounded. Obviously, neither of them expected that Hatake Kakashi, who had only one breath alive, could not only suddenly violently kill people, but also hid such a terrifying pupil technique. But when they turned their gazes to Tenyu, they found that the Akatsuki blue dragon's face was as sinking as water, without the slightest surprise. Did you know it a long time ago? In this case, Master Sasori only dared to think about it in his heart. The one who really dared to say this is naturally the rich woman at Akatsuki. Don't wrong people, be careful, I sue you for slander. How would I know that the dying Kakashi would suddenly violent? It is even more impossible for me to know that Kakashi's Sharingan also hit a pupil called Kamui, which can distort space through the line of sight, thereby destroying things in the line of sight. Tenyu said slightly excitedly. So you didn't know that Kakashi would be Kamui either. But fortunately, you were cautious and didn't let me go up to make up the knife. Otherwise, my head is turned off now, and the person lying there is not Orochimaru, but me. Conan nodded suddenly, and believed Tenyu's nonsense on the spot. Master Sasori bowed his head and said nothing. There are many sentences in his heart, but he dare not vomit a word. Even the name and effect of the pupil technique can be called out all at once. Is this still called? Also, why did Orochimaru be like a dumb guy just now? With Orochimaru's strength, let alone his chakra thread. However, does he dare to say it? Being in an organization where everyone can fight fiercely with the ninja god, he is just a small gua sha master who yelled Tenyu and walked through the back door, and he didn't dare to say anything when he was lighthearted. It's just a pity Orochimaru. Although it is only an intern, it can be regarded as a useful person. Unexpectedly, when he just joined the organization, the people were gone. Conan glanced at Orochimaru's headless body and shook his head. Frankly speaking, she really didn't want Orochimaru to die like this. Hidong for 30 years, Hexi for 30 years. Don't bully the girl into being poor. She just pretended to be forced in front of Orochimaru for a while. Orochimaru is gone. It's not a pity at all. Tenyu saw that Sasori of Akasha was about to destroy the bodies of Hatake Kakashi and pharmacist Nanoyu and immediately stopped. Master Sasori, don't move their bodies. Not only was Master Sasori stunned by this, even Conan was a little puzzled. Why, Konoha's Yamanaka clan can read memories from dead people's brains. Simply killing them cannot completely prevent the organization's intelligence exposure. Master Sasori said suspiciously, you destroy their bodies. How did Konoha's people know that the person who killed Hatake Kakashi was Orochimaru? What if King Guy can't find a revenge object and knocks the pot of Kakashi's death on my forehead and kicks me over? Tenyu didn't have a good air. All he wanted was to hold the pot of Kakashi's death firmly on Orochimaru's head. If the Yamanaka clan cannot read the cause of death from Kakashi's brain, how can Emperor Guy find Orochimaru accurately? Master Sasori destroyed the corpse. What if King Guy can't find a revenge object? Just kick him. Or is a lucky one randomly selected from Akatsuki's organization? If you really kick him, that would be fine. With the vitality and recovery ability of his Azure Dragon form, he is still very hopeful that he can carry the full set of output of the Emperor Guy. But what if one lucky guy is randomly selected by the King Guy? Master Sasori and Kakuzu, the legendary Chunin, were selected, and that was not a big problem. But the lucky one drawn at random is one of Conan, Nagato, and Yahiko. No matter who King Guy kicked in the end, he was reluctant to recite this pot, nor did he want Conan to recite. Akasa no Sasori's expression is a bit subtle. Can't you do some human affairs? This Orochimaru is dead, you still refuse to let him go. Don't people just look at your body reluctantly? Isn't it just a picture of your body? Need to remember the hate so far. How can I say that Orochimaru died gloriously as an intern at Akatsuki? Hey, your expression looks very rude. Don't think this matter has nothing to do with you. If the pot of Kakashi can't be detained on Orochimaru's head, you will be the lucky one chosen by the Emperor Guy every minute. Quote. Tien glanced at Master Sasori. Let alone, the probability of finding Master Sasori is very high. After all, King Guy wants to kick him, and the 8th gate must be fully opened. But to kick Master Sasori, 7th gate is enough. Forget it. This pot is for the intern to carry it. Quote. Sasori's face changed slightly. Although he didn't know what Emperor Guy was, he really didn't want to experience it in person to make Xiao Qinglong so concerned. But Orochimaru is dead. Even if Konoha finds out that he killed Kakashi, in the end it is not only our organization. Before Konan finished speaking, his pretty face suddenly changed. Fang Buddha thought of something. She turned her head abruptly and looked at the corpse whose head was screwed off by Hatake Kakashi with Kamui. Is this Lion Majesty dead? Konan's beautiful eyes showed a hint of disbelief. Do you get up by yourself, or do I make you never get up? Tien glanced at Orochimaru's headless corpse. Puff. Under Konan and Sasori's shocked gaze, at the neck of the headless corpse, a wet Orochimaru crawled out of the corpse's neck bit by bit like a snake molting its skin. It really is Tien-Jun. I have always been most proud of the body replacement technique developed by myself. Unexpectedly, it is useless in front of you. Quote. Orochimaru got up, his tone admiring, but more fearful. In addition to taking the place of death, his big snake flow body replacement technique is even more deceptive to death. However, in front of Tien-Yu's observation Haki, who can listen to Chakra's voice, it makes no sense. This is the first and last time. Don't show off your unpretentious means in front of me in the future. It should be the pot on your back, you can't miss one. Quote. Tien-Yu's plain words are full of unquestionable dominance. Quote. Quote. Orochimaru lowered his head and should be. Do interns have no human rights? What is my pot? No one is missing. Didn't I just take a look at you? Am I just figuring your body? As for arranging me to this point, I'm willing to give you a scapegoat at Akatsuki, and I won't even give you the chance of suspended animation. Mr. Tien-Yu, you wait for me. Hidong for 30 years, Hexi for 30 years. Don't bully the big snake and be poor. The shame you gave me today, one day I will return it to you one by one. Quote. Don't look at him on the surface with a nod, but who is he? Orochimaru? One of the 3 ninjas, as strong as a monster. How would you be willing to subdue under the dragon? He has all the ambitions and courage he should have. No, he was already shouting, roaring, and swearing in his heart at this time. Since the person is not dead, let's go. The noise just now was really too loud. Even Luasha is dead. Most of Sand Shinobi will arrive soon. Quote. Konan suppressed his shock at Orochimaru's 6th-level life-saving ability. Sand Shinobi's large force, she is not afraid. After all, there are tens of millions of detonating charms carried with him. It is not a matter of minutes to bury a large army of ninjas in one go. But when she thought of Nagato's distressed and desperate expression, she just thought about it. After all, the purpose of her and Tien-Yu's coming out this time was to recruit people, not to match Sunagaku. Sand Shinobi, just so scared. Isn't it just right here? Anyway, Feng Ying was killed, and this trip was a complete success. After getting them done, he rushed directly into Sunagaku and took Shozuru away. Quote. Tien-Yu's eyes brightened as he spoke. Apparently, he was still thinking about signing into Sunagaku. It's not that he is eager to sign to Sunagaku, nor is he insecure and eager to improve his strength. In fact, with his current strength, as long as he is not against the 6th level, he can say one thing, I am invincible, you are free. But he himself knows that the noise that came out this time was a bit big, and it violated Nagato's policy of keeping a low profile and hoarding strength. He could completely imagine how wonderful Nagato's expression would be after learning what happened in the Kingdom of Wind. Needless to say, this time I went back and gave him 100% ban. At that time, next time I want to come to the Kingdom of Wind, I don't know when it will be. Then, do you want to take it easy and erase Sunagaku from the territory of the Kingdom of Wind? Konan stared at Tien-Yu, his eyes gradually becoming weird. It's okay, anyway, there are at least tens of millions of detonating symbols in your pocket. Tien-Yu thought for a while, and felt that this plan was not bad either. Anyway, with Nagato's little dream of nuclear leveling the world of ninja, sooner or later, he will confront the 5 great ninja villages. Then destroy a Sunagaker first. Isn't this weakening the enemy's power in advance? When Nagato finds out, God knows how he will praise him for his reliability. It also detonates, why don't you go to heaven? I beg you, be a man again. Nagato worked so hard at Akatsuki, but he hasn't even recruited 10 people. Do you want him to be surrounded by Konoha, Rock Shinobi, Cloud Shinobi and Mist Shinobi? Quote. Conan clutched his forehead and whispered weakly in Tianyu's ear. To be honest, Nagato had secretly pulled her aside before she came out. Qian Dingwan told her to look at Tianyu, and don't let this blue dragon mess around. Except for hiring people, don't do unnecessary things. But there is another saying, she has been looking at Tianyu very hard since she met the legendary ninja in the short book street. However, wherever Tianyu goes, between his gestures is conqueror's haki. The movement was so loud that she couldn't cover it even if she wanted to. A series of things like Master Sasori, Luasha, Orochimaru, etc. behind the Kingdom of Wind, all prove that no matter how fast she wipes her butt, she definitely can't keep up with Tianyu's tossing speed. She has a hunch. No, don't have a hunch. She is sure. If Tianyu were to erase Sand Shinobi from the territory of the Kingdom of Wind, then Yahiko and Nagato would not be far from hanging. It's not a big problem, don't we have Orochimaru? He is an intern, no uniform, no ring, and has a relationship with Akatsuki, and he deserves to be Akatsuki's back. Quote. Tianyu said while looking at Orochimaru. Those eyes clearly said, the first pot king at Akatsuki, you must belong to you. Quote. Quote. Orochimaru's expression can no longer be described as subtle. The interns of the Qingqing organization are used to give back to the official members. Conan is right. This blue dragon is really inappropriate. Give yourself a reward for this new intern who just joined the organization. Please, he has carried Kakashi's pot on his back. Konoha didn't need to check it, and we knew it was done by our organization. Quote. Conan sighed. The idea is good, but Orochimaru is already his own. Killing a wind shadow is at best Sunagaker hatred at Akatsuki. With the grievances between the 5 great shinobi villages, not only is it absolutely impossible to stage the feat of the 5 villages joining hands to encircle the Akatsuki, even the other 4 shadows learned that Sand Shinobi had died, and the first reaction was to do a beautiful job. Nicking sunflower seeds, while sitting and watching Sunagaker was unlucky. But if Sand Shinobi, one of the 5 great ninja villages, is erased, the nature is completely different. Or, kick Orochimaru out of the organization. Then buckle the pot on his head. In this way, both Kakashi's pot and Sunagaker's pot can be seamlessly connected to Orochimaru's head. Quote. Tianyu's words made Orochimaru and Master Sasori's forehead sweat. Especially Orochimaru. He felt that his intern was not as good as a warm bag that he lost when he used it up. Pretty girl, you can't let him do this. Keep me, there will be a pot to be carried in the future, you can still throw me on the head of the intern. But now kick me out of the organization, then it's gone. You must make a clear distinction between a pan and a pan. Quote. Orochimaru looked at Conan eagerly. At this moment, seeing that Tianyu wants to arrange himself one after another, he is chilly both physically and mentally, where there is still the ambition of Hidong and Hexi for 30 years, and don't bully him. It's okay, the intern is gone, you can recruit again. Before Conan was moved by Orochimaru, Tianyu had already said. Mr. Tianyu, you love to joke again. Every one of your pots is so extraordinary, you really can't afford to wait for it. Apart from me, where can you find a better back pot than me, an intern? Quote. Orochimaru smiled forcefully. Don't tell me, in the age when the 6 ways did not come out, the pot that Tianyu threw out, apart from Orochimaru, really few can afford it. Ah, let me stroke it first. See if you can find a way to memorize it without kicking you out of Akatsuki. Quote. Hearing this, Tianyu had to ponder. What Orochimaru said makes sense. As for the back pot, few other than Konoha Pot King, there are really few that can compare to Orochimaru. But he was almost at the gate of Sunagaker, and he was really unwilling to leave without signing in. Quote. The cold sweat on Orochimaru's forehead became more After all, you still didn't give up the idea of letting me go. Seeing that Tianyu was obsessed with Sunagaku, he could only send his distressed gaze towards Conan. At this time, he could be regarded as seeing it out. Not to mention that Master Sasori is also a full member of Akatsuki, but in fact he is a staffed employee, and he has one more ring than his own intern. Conan is the rich woman who can really move Tianyu. Let's go. Don't think about these improper things all day long. You want to go to Sunagaku so much, so you want to guard Suru, and when the full members of Akatsuki are recruited, you can wave whatever you want. Now, I will bother you to let go of Nagato and let him live for a few more years. Quote. Conan has a wing, not allowing Tianyu to say separately, grabbing him to the sky, and flying towards the country of rain. She still knows how bad Nagato's body is. Although Nagato's legs were not blown off by Hanzo, Rinnegan's burden still made the god of Akatsuki with vortex blood gaunt and thin. How does Nagato care about this? Putting all his thoughts on the Akatsuki, he looks like a dream-seeking young man who is struggling to neutralize the world of ninja in his lifetime. It's just that the two of them didn't know if they walked too quickly or too quickly. The Mangekyo Sharingan inlaid in Kakashi's eyes, whether it is Tianyu or Conan, both of them have forgotten the same as the Buddha. Not only didn't mention it, but also didn't try to poach Mangekyo Sharingan from Kakashi's eyes. Sasori-san, I didn't expect that you and I would work together. I would like to ask you for your advice on the day of Akatsuki from now on. Quote. When Orochimaru saw that Tianyu was finally pulled away by Conan, he finally breathed out in his heart. It's a mere intern, but it's just going to come back. Is it worthy for me as a full member to advise? Quote. Master Sasori dismissed a smile, ignored Orochimaru's face as black as the bottom of a pot, and turned away. Gua Sha Master, what's so great? Isn't it more rings than me? Why don't you look down on the backpot, Master? Quote. Orochimaru gritted his teeth and stared at the back of Akasha no Sasori. At this moment, he really wanted to give Sasori of Akasha a backstab. But when he thought that he was just an intern, but the other party was a full member, he was suddenly discouraged. Just as Orochimaru was about to step up to keep up, the corner of his eyes noticed Hatake Kakashi's body. Mangekyo Sharingan, good stuff. A flash of greed flashed in Orochimaru's eyes. Then he walked quickly to Kakashi, reached out and dug out Mangekyo Sharingan from the opponent's eye socket. An idiot blinded by greed. Sasori, who was walking in front, noticed Orochimaru's actions, and the corners of his mouth suddenly raised a touch of sarcasm. Mangekyo Sharingan is a good thing, yes. But when is it the turn of an intern to touch the good stuff? Even if Tianyu and Conan disdain to ask for it, isn't he still a regular employee? The line is not up to Orochimaru. However, whether Tianyu or Conan, Fang Buddha completely forgot about Mangekyo Sharingan. Even after Orochimaru poached Mangekyo Sharingan, there was no intention to ask for it. I thought I picked it up. As everyone knows, this is another pot that Tianyu throws at you. Quote. Akasago Sasori glanced at Orochimaru, who looked like he had picked up a treasure behind him, and sneered in his heart. On top of a chaotic oasis that was torn apart, the corpses of Sand Shinobi and Konoha Shinobi were lying quietly. Unknown how long it has passed, the space next to Hatake Kakashi's corpse suddenly twisted. Immediately afterwards, a man wearing a mask and only a scarlet Sharingan exposed to the air appeared in a Uzumaki-like twisted space. When his eyes touched Hatake Kakashi's corpse, and the face that had been poached by Mangekyo Sharingan, leaving only the hollow eye sockets, he staggered like a heavy blow. Kakashi, you trash died like this. How dare you? I ask, how dare you? Obviously owning one of my Mangekyo Sharingan, he died here so easily, and was so embarrassed that even the Mangekyo Sharingan I gave you was poached away. Quote. Uchiha Obito muttered to himself. Seeing Kakashi die in front of him, various emotions surfaced in his Sharingan. There is anger, unbelief, disdain, sadness and anger. There are no emotions such as joy and joy. Chapter 51. Maybe Kakashi's death was too abrupt. Uchiha Obito was caught off guard. At this time, his body and mind were immersed in the shock brought about by Kakashi's death, which made him for a time not caring about the situation of the mission and the death of 4th Kage Rosha. He just stood quietly in the ruin-like oasis, staring at Hatake Kakashi's body with blank eyes. Da. At this station, Uchiha Obito woke up from the complex emotions until there was a rush of dense, rapid footsteps in the distance. Sanin. Funnying, they are all rubbish. Uchiha Obito's Scarlet Sharingan looked in the direction of the footsteps. With Sharingan's insight, he rushed from a distance. Before the group of Sand Shinobi, headed by a 1000-generation mother-in-law, hadn't seen him, these Sand Shinobi's figures were already in full view. Staring at these Sand Shinobi who are getting closer and closer to him, the looming murderous intent gradually rises from the Scarlet Sharingan. Humph. Not knowing what came to mind, Uchiha Obito still didn't do anything in the end. Just use Mangekyo Sharingan to suck the corpses of Kakashi, Yakushi Nanoyu, and the remains of Aburame Ryoma into a different space. When the mother-in-law and others came to the broken oasis, the others had disappeared. Rosa, the mother-in-law of the 1000 generations, glanced around, suddenly staring at her somewhat muddy eyes. A bone covered with dust came into his sight. He is Master Funnying. Impossible. Master Funnying can easily suppress the existence of one-tail Shuhei with just a gesture. Master Funnying is comparable to Konoha's golden glitter, how could he die here? The Sand Shinobi who came with the mother-in-law of the 1000 generations changed their colors. Most people don't want to believe that the wreckage is their Master Funnying, Luo Sha. Like other ninja villages, Sunagaku's position of wind and shadow was passed to the beginning of the 3rd generation, either with a lot of water or with private goods. For example, today Konoha's 3rd Hokage produced the strongest Naruto in history, and tomorrow Sand Shinobi next door will follow suit and immediately blow out the strongest Naruto in history. After Rosha, the 4th Kazekage, did not dare to learn from 3rd Kazekage, and gave himself the name of the strongest wind shadow in history, but during the ruling period, it is not a problem to pick up some private goods for his 4th Kazekage. For example, the suppression of one-tail Shuhei between hands and feet. Another example is comparable to Namikaze Minato. No, the Sand Shinobi who believed in these private goods obviously saw the bones of Luasha and the placer gold everywhere, but they were still unwilling to accept the cruel reality of Luasha's death. Mother-in-law, is it really Master Funnying? Sand Shinobi Jonin was only promoted not long ago, and Baki, who was trusted by Rasa, couldn't help but ask. Take the bones to verify, don't you know? Also, there should be corpses lying in those places, but they were taken away. Go there and investigate for yourself. Quote, the mother-in-law Chiandai was a little sad and pointed at the place where Kakashi, Yakushi Nanoyu, and Aburame Ryoma were lying down. Luo Sha is the ninja who pushed her to the position of Wind Shadow. She also believed that Sand Shinobi could go to glory under the leadership of Luo Sha. But now, such a Funnying whom she had high hopes for, was killed by someone in the Kingdom of Wind only a few years ago. How could this not make her feel sad? Yes, Baki's heart shuddered. Unlike other Sand Shinobi who believe in Luasha's name and record mixed with water and sand, as Luasha's confidant, does he still know what his boss's name is all about? Although the identity of Master Funnying has yet to be verified, who is the mother-in-law of the 1000 generations? World War I, World War II, World War III, World War IV, Sand Shinobi is a heroine who is not lacking in battles. She has said so. This bone is Luasha, isn't it the same as a real hammer? No matter who you are, no matter what force you are from, if you dare to kill me Sand Shinobi 4th Kazekage in the Kingdom of Wind, my 1000 generations will definitely ask you back 10 times. The mother-in-law of the 1000 generations looked at Luo Sha's bones carefully carried by Sand Shinobi without a word, her slightly muddy eyes burst out with a terrifying cold light. At this moment, she was no longer an old woman about to retire, but a hero in the ninja world. On the other side, Uchiha Obito, who rushed to the oasis first, had taken the 3 of Kakashi away and returned to the Konoha route base. Boom! Seeing Uchiha Obito's return, Black Zetsu on the side immediately asked. But before he could speak, Uchiha Obito had released the 3 bodies stored in different spaces. Kakashi. When Black Zetsu saw that one of the corpses was actually Hatake Kakashi, his pupils suddenly shrank. Obito, what is going on? Why are there only the bodies of the 3 of them, Orochimaru? Quote. After a few seconds of shock, Black Zetsu came back to his senses. Call the ninjas of the Yamanaka clan in the roots. After Uchiha Obito gave Danzo a harsh tone, he turned his head and said to Black Zetsu. Black Zetsu, see how much useful information you can find in their minds. At least I want to know how Kakashi died. Quote, since the two were caught by Tenyu in the country of rain, they were forced to control Danzo and Tenten's base. Uchiha Obito and Black Zetsu, the two behind the scenes, not only failed to recover but also worked hard. For example, Uchiha Obito often uses Danzo to enter Konoha's Forbidden Technique library to learn various forbidden techniques, hoping to find a forbidden technique against Tenyu. Although Black Zetsu did not follow Uchiha Obito to learn the forbidden technique, he also did not waste time at the root base. He has learned many secret techniques at the root, such as those of the Yamanaka clan. Although it is certainly not as good as Yamanaka, it is worse than many ninjas of the Yamanaka clan. Let me try. Black Zetsu glanced deeply at Uchiha Obito. He didn't need to ask, and he didn't need to use Yamanaka's secret technique to look up the memories of Kakashi. Just by looking at Uchiha Obito's bird-like appearance, he already knew that the Madara-addicted person had overturned again. Except for Madara, Uchihas are all rubbish. Although Black Zetsu seemed calm on the surface, the idea of reviving Uchiha Madara in his heart became stronger. He glanced at Uchiha Obito without a trace, then walked over to Kakashi's corpse, reached out and pressed the copy ninja's head. As the memories of Kakashi's death were constantly read, Black Zetsu's expression gradually became more exciting. Even if there is no way to read all the memories of his life from the dead Kakashi's head, the information composed of scattered memory fragments is still enough to raise his disappointment with Uchiha Obito to a new peak. How about it? Uchiha Obito saw Black Zetsu withdraw his right hand and asked immediately. Although he had already sent the ninjas of the Yamanaka clan in Genri to come, he still prefers to believe in Black Zetsu. Asking people to inform the ninjas of the Yamanaka clan is nothing more than checking the gaps. Obito, is this what you said to flatten Orochimaru? Orochimaru clearly didn't look at you. His purpose from beginning to end was only one, to seize Qinglong's body. Not only did that guy fail to cooperate with Luasha as you requested, and join hands to catch Conan, but instead sat and watched Luasha be killed by Qinglong. What's even more hateful is that after Orochimaru failed to capture Qinglong, in order to survive, he actually bowed to Akatsuki Qinglong. Black Zetsu glared at Uchiha Obito with an annoyed look, and burst out a number of extremely explosive intelligence. Ah, how dare he? Isn't he afraid of becoming a traitor? Quote. In shock, Uchiha Obito even forgot about Kakashi's death. Afraid, I haven't seen a ninja who can swipe his forehead protector like Orochimaru when he strokes his forehead protector, so he can be decisive. Black Zetsu became more annoyed as he talked about it. He knew Uchiha Obito was unreliable. What made Orochimaru unite with Luasha, capture Conan alive, seal Tenyu, sink the Akatsuki that just started, and finally try to seize Rinnegan? This is all bullshit. Now it seems that Orochimaru or Uchiha Obito, as long as they are served with a few peanuts, they will not become drunk like this. You told me that a man who eats Shin only wants to take the blue dragon and can push the Konoha shinobi on the operating table to dismember will be afraid of becoming a traitor. Just like Orochimaru's stroke of the forehead protector, he said that he does hard work on weekdays, and I believe it. Quote. After Black Zetsu spoke, his tone gradually became gloomy, cold, and no more anger. It's just that his heart is completely disappointed with Uchiha Obito. Holding Danzo and Konoha's roots in his hand, Jonin under his command, like a cloud, actually played a good hand of cards so badly. He can now see the follow-up development of this matter. When Sand Shinobi investigates this matter and learns what Orochimaru is doing, he will inevitably put pressure on Konoha based on this. By then, after Namikaze Minato took over, Danzo, whose power has been shrinking, will inevitably be cut again. Even the roots in his hand can't be kept in minutes. Orochimaru. Mangekyo Sharingan of Uchiha Obito opened his eyes suddenly. The piercing murderous intent almost burst out from the Scarlet Sharingan. One more interesting thing to tell you. As a nomination for joining Akatsuki, Kakashi and Yakushi Nanoyu were killed by Orochimaru himself. Quote. A smile appeared on Black Zetsu's face. Quote. Uchiha Obito gloomily and Sharingan stared at Black Zetsu. Quote. Black Zetsu met Uchiha Obito without fear. Just as the atmosphere at Gen's base became extremely gloomy and solemn due to the confrontation between the two behind-the-scenes Black Hands, Uchiha Obito suddenly closed his eyes. Kakashi's life and death, I don't care at all. All I care about is the eye that belongs to me. Now that I know that Orochimaru was the one who killed Kakashi, I want his life and the eye that doesn't belong to him. Quote. After Uchiha Obito finished speaking, people have been swallowed by the twisted space. The pot clasped on Orochimaru's head, stable. Sure enough, no matter how addicted Madara is, no matter how much she pretends to be like it, she will only pretend to be a severe Uchiha Madara patient, and will not become a real Uchiha Madara. Black Zetsu looked at where Uchiha Obito was standing before disappearing, and his eyes gradually became furui. There is neither anger nor disappointment, only deep indifference. The death of Feng Ying. Orochimaru defected. Akatsuki Qinglong defeated 3 shadow-level powerhouses in succession. Even if Uchiha Obito and Black Zetsu wanted to cover these 3 things, they couldn't cover them at all. Before long, Feng Ying was killed, Orochimaru defected, and there was a blue dragon at Akatsuki, just like 3 nuclear bombs thrown into the ninja world, detonating the entire ninja world at the same time. The development of the situation is just as Black Zetsu expected. After Sand Shinobi found out that the incident was over, he immediately sent someone to Konoha to put pressure on it. Namikaze Minato, who was at the peak, would naturally not be afraid of Sand Shinobi, but after learning everything, especially knowing that his beloved disciple Kakashi was killed, he disbanded the Roots without saying a word, and also banned Danzo. This is the approach of Namikaze Minato, who is calm, wise, and has a big picture. The one below is passionate, impulsive, and affectionate. Future Guy King Might Guy learned of the only good friend in his life. Kakashi died at the hands of Orochimaru, and the man who contributed to this incident was the old man Danzo. Only 15 years old, King Guy, who was at the age of my fate, screwed the 8 inner gates to the root base on the spot. He didn't want to rebel, and he didn't lose his mind. He just wanted to determine whether Kakashi's death had any hidden secrets. For example, is a certain Konoha Pot King overshadowing Kakashi in this mission? Considering the history of Konoha Nabe King and the inextricable relationship between the other party and Orochimaru, he feels that it is necessary for him to seek justice for Kakashi and ask the Nabe King to ask the whole thing. Of course, considering that he reads few books and people are not very smart, he was worried that he would be deceived by the bad guy like the King of Pot. He decided to fight the King of Pot before listening to the explanation of King of Pot. He felt that after the fight, what he heard would be more real. But is the King of Pot so good to see? Even if I saw it, whether it was before or after being controlled by Uchiha Obito, the King of the Pot was not easy to see, and his speech was not good. Have nothing to say. I control my own life. King Guy said that no one can stop me from seeking justice for Kakashi today. Pass 5 levels and cut 6 generals. Might Guy went all the way from the root gate to the depths of the base on the spot, and almost didn't get out of the 2 behind-the-scenes hands hiding inside. In the end, it was Namikaze Minato who knew that Might Guy was making a fuss and came in time. With the sealing hands of Flying Thunder God and Uzumaki clan, plus Might Guy didn't want to be hard-headed with him, 4th Hokage. Easily push Might Guy to the ground. Hokage-sama, just press on me like this, or I will kill Danzo. Might Guy carried Namikaze Minato with his right hand on the back of his head and slowly lifted his head. At this moment, although he didn't have the 8th gate fully opened, his whole body was surrounded by bright green light visible to the naked eye. Obviously, the 7th gate of the 8 inner gates has been opened. Guy, calm down first. Kakashi's death, I am as heartbroken as you. But this can't be a reason for you to act recklessly. You receive 8 inner gates first. No matter what you want to know, I will tell you. Quote. Namikaze Minato persuaded with all his heart. I changed to 3rd Hokage. On the surface, I guess it was a bit hard-hearted, but it was impossible to get away after a round of settlement after the event. But Might Guy is lucky. I ran into Namikaze Minato who hadn't died yet. Regarding Might Guy's approach, although he did not agree with it and wanted to stop it, deep down in his heart, he still praised Guy's imperial crown for Lan Yan's approach. After all, he was also a dead disciple. Dagon, Dodanzo, as Hokage, he can't do this, but it doesn't prevent him from shouting to Might Guy for a good job. Master Naruto, I don't read too much, don't lie to me. As long as I accept 8 inner gates, you will tell me all the inside story of Kakashi's death. Quote. For Danzo, I can't help but let the Emperor guy frustrate him. Anyway, Kakashi is dead, and his only bond with Konoha is gone. He was so sad that he didn't talk about destroying Konoha and defecting Konoha, but he really didn't care about Konoha Pot King. I assure you as 4th Hokage, Teacher Kakashi. Namikaze Minato saw Might Guy say so. Instead of dissatisfied, he liked Might Guy, the ninja, even more. Well, I only trust you. Might Guy pondered for a moment, and finally chose to put away his magical powers. He was still willing to listen to Namikaze Minato's words. As for Konoha Nabe King's words, he felt that it was necessary to beat the opponent before listening. If you listen to it this way, it's probably more true, and you don't have so many private goods. I have asked Hiei to investigate this matter. According to his investigation, it can be concluded that Kakashi was killed by Orochimaru himself. In order to survive from Akatsuki's Qinglong, he chose to kill Kakashi and Nanoyu as a certificate of nomination, in exchange for a place to become an intern in the Akatsuki organization. Although Hiei can only do this, in my opinion, Kakashi's death is mainly Orochimaru, and it has little to do with Danzo's consultant. Orochimaru even dared to catch the ninjas in the village to do experiments. It is not impossible to kill Kakashi in order to protect himself. Quote. Namikaze Minato explained. From extracting the memory of the deceased person's brain, even if Yamanaka Hayaki personally took action, it is impossible to completely extract the memory of the deceased person's life. Therefore, according to what 4th Hokage said, the Pot Tenu clasped Orochimaru's head really became more and more stable. Then, what about the Sharingan from Kakashi? That was the relic that Obito gave him, the one he treasured most in his lifetime. Quote. Might Guy was silent for a few seconds, and suddenly remembered something. The eyes Obito left for Kakashi, lost. I guess Orochimaru poached it. Judging from the experimental data he left in Konoha, he has been conducting human experiments long ago. It is not surprising that Kakashi's Sharingan aroused his interest. Quote. When Might Guy mentioned Kakashi's Sharingan, Namikaze Minato's face turned gloomy. It's just that when he said this, he always looked at Danzo unconsciously. Could it be? Namikaze Minato's small eyes are not easy to detect, but Might Guy can still notice it from the corner of his eyes. He followed Namikaze Minato's fleeting gaze, and Danzo caught his eye again. The old man didn't gog his eyes. When Danzo saw Might Guy and Namikaze Minato, both suspected him, even if he had been controlled by Uchiha Obito's Sharingan, he was furious on the spot. That's right. Whether it was before or after being controlled, he always wanted something good after seeing it. But this time he was really wrong. It's best. Might Guy stared at Danzo coldly. Listening to the tone, it is obvious that he still has doubts about Danzo. After all, Kakashi's body was sent to the root first, and then to the hands of Namikaze Minato. For such a long time, let alone poaching Kakashi's Sharingan, even an eye change operation is enough. If there is no evidence, and Namikaze Minato is still watching, he can't help but want to pull off Danzo's bandage to see if it contains Kakashi's Sharingan. Guy, now you can stop doing stupid things, right? Namikaze Minato saw that Might Guy's mood was much more stable than before, and the hand that pressed his head was not so strong. Whenever you find news of Orochimaru, please be sure to notify me. I hope I can avenge Kakashi by myself. Quote. Might Guy nodded, but his eyes were cold like a blade. Yes, but before that, you must endure first. Let alone do things like today. Quote. Namikaze Minato exhaled. Orochimaru, that eye that doesn't belong to you, and your life. I want it, Might Guy. Might Guy nodded irresponsibly, but I made up my mind. Before he found Orochimaru, he would stare at Danzo non-stop. Once he found that Kakashi Sharingan was a clue that Danzo had dug away, he immediately used his magical powers. First, Uchiha Obito, the man behind the scenes, said to kill him, and then the king guy, who kicked Madara 6 times, wanted to kill him. It has to be said that if Tenu's pot is buckled, it is true that Orochimaru has completely embarked on the pinnacle of life. Counselor Danzo, you'd better report the information about Akatsuki truthfully. I hope this time, you won't have any more concealment. Otherwise, when something happens, it will no longer be as simple as simply dismissing Danzo as a consultant. Quote. Namikaze Minato stared deeply at Danzo, and there was an unquestionable taste in the words. Quote. Quote. The faces of Danzo and Uchiha Obito who manipulated him changed. Obviously, Namikaze Minato had already suspected something. If you just suspect that he has someone in Akatsuki's organization, that's okay. I'm afraid Namikaze Minato guessed something else. The pot of TNU. No, the recruitment event at Akatsuki did not just cause a huge shock in Sand Shinobi and Konoha. On Konoha's side, it was hard to quell the storm of Gai's Emperor's anger as a blue face. Rain Shinobi Village, which is far away in the country of rain, was also turbulent. For example, Yahiko, who has been managing Rain Shinobi Village, learned that TNU, Nagato, and Konan were carrying so many things behind their backs, and they vomited fresh blood on the spot. It's more than that. As soon as he vomited blood, he refused his subordinate Rain Shinobi's call for a medical ninja. He took out 2 tissues and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and then walked tremblingly towards Nagato's house. On the other side, Nagato learned of TNU's coquettish record of killing 4th Kazekage Luasha solo as soon as he arrived in the Kingdom of Wind. Although he said in his heart, he turned pale with anger and almost didn't faint on the spot. Only then has the Akatsuki headquarters, Nagato, Yahiko, and Konan the famous scene of the trial of TNU. The atmosphere is a bit wrong. Standing not far away, Sasori of Akasawa looked at the depressive atmosphere surrounding the several core members of Akatsuki, only to feel extremely uncomfortable. Do you think it's wrong too? Coincidentally, I think so too. Anyway, there's nothing about us here. Why don't we go out to get some air and get to know you by the way? Quote. Since TNU brought Sasori and Orochimaru of the Red Sand back to the Akatsuki base, Kakuzu's green eyes have been looking at them both. Okay, in Sasori of the Lower Red Sand, the Lady of Akatsuki. The person gave the nickname the first puppet master of the ninja world. This brother is a bit unfamiliar, I don't know how your excellency is called. Quote. As soon as the Kingdom of Wind joined the organization, Sasori of Akasha knew the horror of Akatsuki. Except for himself and Orochimaru, everyone in the organization can fight Senju Hashirama, the god of ninjas. No, when he first came to the base, he was a little worried that other formal members of the organization would be difficult to get along with. Unexpectedly, Kakuzu, an official member who is obviously older than him, not only speaks very well, but also enthusiastically invites him to meet outside. The #1 puppet master in the ninja world. Sasori of the Red Sand, right. Let's go out, let's get to know each other. Quote. Kakuzu's tone and expression became more enthusiastic after listening to Akasori's self-introduction. You just call me Kakuzu. I am the Beidou of Akatsuki, and I am nicknamed Legend Ninja. In fact, it's not a big deal, that is, once fought with Senju Hashirama, the god of ninjas, and survived by chance. Quote. On the spot, Kakuzu took one hand and walked out with Sasori and Orochimaru, while introducing themselves. Don't look at Kakuzu. He only has money in his eyes. But at the critical moment, he also pretended to be so compelling. Hiss. So your excellency is the legendary ninja mentioned by the pretty girl. I've been looking forward to it for a long time. Quote. Not only Sasori of Akasawa heard it coldly, but even Orochimaru looked at Kakuzu again and again. They didn't expect to come to Akatsuki base this time. Not only did they see the leader of Rinnegan, but there were also monsters that had fought against the ninja god and survived to this day. Don't look up for a long time. Now that it's Akatsuki, everyone is one's own. These polite words can be saved. Quote. Kakuzu spoke magnificently, looking at Orochimaru with his left hand on his shoulder. How do you call this friend? After speaking, he stared at Orochimaru scorchingly. Orochimaru is a little uncomfortable. Although Kakuzu treats people with enthusiasm and speaks nicely, which makes him a little like this person, but he doesn't know why, this legendary ninja always looks a little familiar when he looks at him. Just like when he looked at TNU's gaze in the Kingdom of Wind, there was so little resemblance. You just call him Orochimaru. An intern, used to back the pot. No need to know it in particular. Quote. Without waiting for Orochimaru to introduce herself, Sasori of Akasawa said to Kakuzu. Master Sasori, you seem to be a little bit less. Did you forget the name Tianyu bestowed on you when you were in the Kingdom of Wind? The first Gua Sha master at Akatsuki. Quote, hearing this, Orochimaru couldn't worry about why Kakuzu's eyes looked so familiar, and immediately gritted his teeth and glared at Sasori of Akasha. You guy. Say it again and try again. Sasori of the Red Sand suddenly became angry. He swore that he would never be called Gyu Sha master again in his life. Whoever dares to say, he will kill anyone. Except Tianyu. Gua Sha master. Try it. Anyway, Tianyu and several people inside were in a meeting. Orochimaru did not believe that Sasori of the Red Sand dared to do it. Please give me some face, both of you. If you have something to say, you will be outside soon anyway. Quote. Kakuzu looked at the door closer and closer, and his green eyes brightened. At the moment, he walked out the door with one hand on the shoulders of the two of them, and then closed the door with his back foot. Click. As soon as the idlers waited to leave, Nagato and Yahiko looked at Tianyu's gaze even more dangerously. Do you have nothing to tell us? Tianyu. Nagato couldn't help it, and took the lead. Mainly, Tianyu is too irritating. Facing the two of them, he was still resting on Conan's thigh, eating the grapes that Conan had peeled and fed by himself. Obviously, he didn't put the two of them in sight. What do you want me to say? Tianyu looked at Nagato with a puzzled expression. I remember correctly, letting you out this time is to recruit people for the organization. Nagato took a deep breath. Didn't I call everyone back for you in accordance with your instructions? According to legend, Master Sasori not only brought back many places for you, but also sent an intern Orochimaru. Haven't I already overfulfilled the task for you? Why do you still seem very upset? Quote, a little innocence appeared in Tianyu's eyes. If you don't know how many improper things Tianyu did when he went out, Conan would believe it. As a witness to Tianyu's improper behavior, she knows better than anyone. This king, there will be some weird little hobbies more or less. It's just that when the strength is weak, it is not good to show in front of others. After 10 years of signing, Tianyu doesn't matter if his strength is slightly small. What does it mean to do as I tell you? Conscience of heaven and earth, I only ask you to recruit people, but I didn't ask you to smash the wind and shadow of Sand Shinobi. Quote. When Nagato saw Yahiko cast a blaming look at himself, he quickly explained. But when Feng Ying was recruiting you, she suddenly slammed me silently. In order to complete your task, to protect Conan, and to bring the recruits back to the organization, I had no choice but to give Luasha. Yahiko, you know it too. Tianyu, are hard to fight. In the past 10 years, this chakra has been refined for 3 minutes. This is well known in Rain Shinobi and Shaoli. If it weren't for Luasha to be too deceitful, how could I, the one who went out to recruit, suddenly stupefied other people's funging? Quote. Tianyu shrugged. There is a saying that he has really put all his thoughts on the sign in the past 10 years. This chakra was also vainly raised because of his poor physique and spirit. He knew that he was a dead man. He simply didn't hear anything outside the window, and only signed in. So in the 10 years before Akatsuki, he was not good at fighting, and he was not good at cultivating the deeds that have long been known to everyone. You did it all by yourself. Nagato. As long as I didn't know, the impression of Tianyu was still stuck in Yahiko, who had signed for 10 years in the past, and immediately believed it. Let me just say it. Tianyu is so behaved, and has a pure temperament, and his life is still not combative. In the past 10 years, the door has not come out, and the second gate has not moved forward. This time I left the country of rain, how could I get rid of other people's Sunagakers when shadow as soon as I left? Feelings are the cause of Nagato. Quote. Nagato opened his mouth, and the whole person was in a mess for a while. He wanted to tell Yahiko that you misunderstood Tianyu. But for a while, I don't know where to start. After all, what Tianyu said just now was really justified. Relying on the uncombatable personal settings left behind during the 10 years of signing in the Shao organization, even if the identity of Qinglong is now exposed and no longer getting along with them as ordinary people, it is still enough to convince Yahiko. Nagato, do you know how badly the killing of Feng Ying will bring to the country of Rain and Rain Shinobi Village? Once Sand Shinobi and Konoha find out the relationship between Akatsuki Shinobi and Rain Shinobi, the hard One Piece in this country will be gone. Before you do something next time, can you tell me first? If something goes wrong, at least I can know in advance how to wipe your ass. Unlike now, I don't even know how to carry it for you. Quote. Don't think it's okay not to speak. When Yahiko saw that Nagato didn't speak, that was even more angry. To be honest, regardless of the Akatsuki of Nagato's reorganization, he still wants to smash the tail beast weapon and nuclear piece of the world. Although he does not approve of such extreme behavior in exchange for peace, after the battle of Hanzo and Danzo, he does not talk about it. Like Nagato, all innocence disappeared overnight, but it was also greatly impacted. This disapproval is not agreed, but the first generation, the two brothers, can still discuss it. What he was really angry about was Nagato's terrorist activities. He didn't tell him about such a big thing in the nuclear-level ninja world, and didn't take him to do it. Quote. Nagato flipped through Byakugan. You speak nicely now. But I really want to tell you, I want to nuclear the ninja world. It's strange that you still strongly oppose it. Moreover, what is meant to help? Did I make this stall? That was the result of the Qinglong who was not combative in his life, but was stunned to death when he went out. If you want to wipe your butt, you also wipe it for him. Hey, I will try to cover it up for you. But don't be too optimistic. The inextricable ties between Akatsuki and Rain Shinobi can be concealed from others, absolutely not hidden from Sand Shinobi who has died of funging, let alone the high-level Konoha who has been eyeing Akatsuki early. It was a matter of time before Rain Shinobi was found here. At that time, Cloud Shinobi and Rock Shinobi are hard to say, but Konoha and Sand Shinobi will take minutes to reach our door. Quote. When Yahiko saw that Nagato was still silent, the fire in his heart also disappeared. Again, one generation, two brothers. Nagato, who has never had an opinion, not only has an opinion, but also has a dream. What reason does he have to stop a man from chasing his dream? What are you afraid of? The big deal is that I will stop it by myself. God wants to correct this erroneous world, something that is taken for granted. Quote. Nagato finally couldn't hold back the power of God in his heart. Block, Konoha and Sand Shinobi, the two big ninja villages, have accumulated a century of ninja power. What are you doing to block? Yahiko was startled first, and then he was angry and laughed. It seems that Nagato has really grown up and entered the second year of secondary school. From the beginning, I can't help it. Whether it is Konoha or Sand Shinobi, everything can only be in vain. Just rely on my super, spicy Tionsen. Quote. Nagato floated slowly, his hands spread out. The whole body's repulsion is looming, a posture ready to go. This chakra, so strong. Is he really the Nagato I know? Except for TNU, even Conan, who had been mentally prepared for a long time, was shocked. Not to mention Yahiko, who has been busy managing Rain Shinobi recently and is a little ignorant of Nagato. Yahiko, you may not know, but I told Conan before. In this ninja realm, only Qinglong could stop the gods. But he stood on God's side and chose to walk with God. Quote. Nagato spoke condescendingly to Yahiko, then turned to look at TNU. But this is a good thing for the 5 ninja villages. At least if I was alone, when correcting this wrong ninja, the area of the map that was rewritten would not be that large. Quote. No doubt, Haki's awe-inspiring lines are from TNU's, a bag of rice to carry several floors, pretending to be taught to Nagato. After studying for a long time, Nagato finally seized the opportunity today. Loda waved fiercely. Just by looking at Yahiko's shocked face, you can see how successful Nagato was in pretending this time. Originally, he wanted to say that Nagato was too self-righteous, but he looked at the Nagato floating in the void in front of him, like a god-man approaching the dust, and then looked at TNU, who was lying in Conan's arms. He hasn't forgotten that TNU turned into a hundreds-meter-long blue dragon, blasting the wooden leaf pot king, a picture of the demigod of the ninja world. This made him a bit speechless to refute. One is the Qinglong TNU who only exists in the myth. A Nagato with Sage of 6 Paths Rinnegan. Yahiko thinks so. Konoha and Sand Shinobi, the 2 ninja villages that have accumulated a century of ninja power, seem not to be difficult to stop. Yahiko, you don't have to blame Nagato too much. Even if there is no such thing as funging, Konoha will not let us go. Quote. TNU glanced at the silent Nagato and Yahiko, then slowly straightened up from Conan's arms. I have time to tell you something. The Madara who counted you, Nagato, and Conan did not die. Not only them, Danzo is not dead either. It's just that the old guy Danzo is a bit unlucky. After the resurrection, it should have encountered the black hands behind these two scenes and was controlled on the spot. Quote. As soon as he said this, whether it was Nagato, Yahiko, or even Conan, who was peeling grapes for him, all looked at him in shock. Impossible. I clearly saw both of them were hammered to death by you. Quote. Nagato exclaimed. He witnessed firsthand how Tianyu helped Uchiha Obito quit Madara addiction online. After that, the two of them squatted together in front of Uchiha Obito's corpse, guarding the corpse for a while before leaving. Izanagi. Tianyu shrugged. Speaking of which, it's not all to blame the cartoonist named Kishimoto. This is such an important pupil technique of Izanagi, but it is still unclear. The duration after the activation of the pupil technique is not said. I didn't say how to crack and target. After he learned that Uchiha Obito was still alive, he could only think of a way to meet the two of them next time, gouging his eyes first, and then beat him to death. If it still doesn't work, then squat on the corpse for 10.5 days, or bring the corpse with you. He really doesn't believe that Uchiha Obito's Izanagi is so god, and it can last as long as 10.5 months. Sure enough, the comics are unreliable. But I want to come too. A cartoonist knows a hammer ninja. This forbidden technique is really troublesome. Nagato reached out and patted the table. He is confident that next time he meets Uchiha Obito, he can help him to quit Madara addiction without Tianyu. Scary. I'm afraid this guy is the same as Xiaoqiang from Immune to Death. Was beaten to death 1 second, and resurrected the next second. It's really troublesome. Uchiha Obito's Mangekyo Sharingan pupil technique is inherently difficult to kill. If he carries a bunch of Sharingan with him, let's use it now. After using a Sharingan, immediately dig it out and plug it in again. That's really hard to kill. Quote. Tianyu nodded. He still remembered that Uchiha Obito was Sharingan with a house. Even if Uchiha Itachi's body and mind have not yet developed the will to fire in his mind, Uchiha Obito, who inherited the name of Madara, must be a bit private. Even if he doesn't, can Uchiha Madara and Black Zetsu still have no private goods? After that guy was beaten to death once alive by you, it is estimated that he has already learned fine. Whenever I run into you, I will inevitably carry enough Sharingan with me. Quote. Conan said. They hide behind the scenes, manipulate Danzo, control the roots, and even influence Konoha's decision-making. So, even if we don't do anything, they will come sooner or later. Quote. Yahiko muttered to himself. Although he has only been the leader of Shinobu Village for a few days, his vision has been raised a lot. Not to mention that they knew about the existence of Uchiha Obito and Black Zetsu, as well as the plans of these two. As long as Rinnegan was still in the hands of Nagato one day, the black hand behind these two scenes would not let them go. It seems that Tianyu smashed 4th Cage and surrendered Orochimaru, which is a good thing for us. Conan thought about it, and suddenly discovered that in Tianyu's series of improper things, there were actually 2 other good things. Indeed, this time, Yahiko agreed. Quote. Nagato almost turned Rinnegan into Byakugan. It's a good thing for both of you, but not necessarily for him. Tianyu smashed Luo Sha this pot, and still buckled him on the head until now. You two are really the old double standard. Feng Ying was killed and fell on Tianyu for the good of everyone. But it fell on himself, but it was his pot. So Yahiko, don't blame Nagato anymore. And Nagato, you don't have to feel guilty about it. Quote. Tianyu patted Yahiko and Nagato on the shoulders. Quote. Nagato opened his mouth, and Rinnegan stared at Tianyu fiercely. An expression of discovering a new world. Nagato, just let it go. Sand Shinobi and Konoha let me delay temporarily. You will recruit the 10 members of Akatsuki as soon as possible. Quote. Yahiko listened to Tianyu's words, but didn't blame Nagato. Not to mention that it's done, but Danzo, Uchiha Obito, and Black Zetsu are involved in this matter, so he can't ignore it. As for the ambition not to rely on extreme force to create world peace, Danzo, Uchiha Obito, and Black Zetsu will talk about this matter. Nagato, I am familiar with recruiting people. As soon as Tianyu heard that Akatsuki was about to recruit people, and he had the opportunity to sign in Akatsuki members and all over the ninja world, he immediately said that the good brothers would help. It wasn't him who said that he would recruit 3 members of Akatsuki on one trip. Who can compare to him in terms of the success rate and efficiency of recruiting members? Roll. Nagato glanced at Tianyu. He admitted that Tianyu's business ability in recruiting people is really nothing to say. No matter who he fancy, Tianyu can bring this person back to the organization, and can also bring a little bit of addition Orochimaru. But in the same way, the sadness that Tianyu brought to him, the black pots are also emerging one after another. If it is not necessary, he will never easily send out this blue dragon to recruit people. Otherwise, he is really afraid that one day his god will not die on the road of the nuclear-level ninja world, but will be planted in a certain black pot that Tianyu accidentally throws at him. Fire style head hard, wind style suppress. Just as Tianyu and the others were discussing the Daybreak and Rain Shinobi in the next ninja storm, how to continue on the road to the nuclear flat ninja, but suddenly came Kakuzu, who was full of repressive excitement from outside the door. Exciting roar. Immediately afterwards, a series of flames exploded, and the sound of violent wind whistling sounded one after another. Legend of the ninja is working with the enemy. Conan's eyes lit up. Great. The last time Kakuzu was hurriedly suppressed with the ability to use money, it hadn't had time to get a glimpse of the legendary ninja after its full combat power. This time there are invaders coming, and I might be able to see the heroic posture of the legendary ninja fighting the ninja battle. Did Sand Shinobi and Konoha hit the door so quickly? When Yahiko said this, he couldn't help but glanced at Nagato. The Buddha is saying that he should solve his own troubles. If it's really Sand Shinobi and Konoha, then this god will personally send them out of this fallen ninja world that has not yet been corrected by the gods. Nagato patted the armrest of the chair, and he floated up again. No way, he has remembered the sentence after reading the book, a bag of rice carrying several floors, written to him by Tianyu himself. If you can fly, you don't have to go. After reading this, Nagato deeply agreed. God, of course it's going to fly. Is it possible to run around like a chicken? Wait, I didn't perceive any other aura. Apart from Kakuzu, there are only Master Sasori and Orochimaru outside. Quote. As soon as Tianyu said this, Yahiko was stunned. There are only 3 of them, who is Kakuzu doing with? I am very happy when I listen to his voice. Yahiko and Nagato looked at each other, and they were puzzled by each other's eyes. Very happy. Conan seemed to let the Buddha think of something, and his expression suddenly became a little subtle. Yes, I hear his voice just like an ordinary person picking up money when walking. Yahiko said surely. Has Nagato, Orochimaru, and Master Sasori been offered rewards in the black market? Tianyu saw Conan's expression and knew that she was thinking of going with herself. Of course, any ninja with a reputation in the ninja world will basically be rewarded in the black market. Before Master Sasori defected, there was Sand Shinobi's name as the first puppet master, and the reward on the black market was over 100 million. Orochimaru is the same. As the legendary Sannin, his reward is higher than that of Master Sasori. Moreover, after the news that they defected to their ninja villages and joined Akatsuki, the bounty of the 2 on the black market was turned over again, adding up to more than 300 million taels. Quote. Nagato, who has been studying the various ways of renunciation in the ninja world recently, said without thinking. Problem occurs. Tianyu and Conan looked at each other. A full 300 million taels dangling in front of the legendary ninja, this made how the legendary ninja could hold back that turbulent heart. Go. Perceiving that the fighting outside is getting fiercer, Tianyu pushes the door immediately. Although Nagato and Yahiko were confused, they still followed Tianyu. As soon as the 4 of them went out, they saw Kakuzu beating Master Sasori and Orochimaru. I don't know if Master Sasori and Orochimaru put up a reward of over 300 million taels, which allowed the legendary ninja to secrete adrenaline. The 3 people who were originally half-powerful, but at this time, it is said that the ninja alone pressed the 2 of Sasori and Orochimaru to beat them. Not to mention the advantage of crushing, but with the 5 masks fully opened, it also has the upper hand. It's a man who can fight fiercely with the god of ninja. Facing a full member and interns at Akatsuki on their own, they can have the upper hand. Quote. Conan, who lacked an intuitive understanding of the strength of the ninja god, immediately exclaimed, "Conan, you seem to have a misunderstanding of the 4 words, God of Ninja." Tianyu is a bit speechless. No, he feels that Conan's situation has gradually exceeded the level of misunderstanding. Recently, it has begun to move in the direction of distortion. Kakuzu's strength is still good. Even if the god himself ends up, there are 5 tricks to solve him. Quote. Nagato, a self-proclaimed god, commented, 5 ways to solve Kakuzu, so it is 10 ways to solve the ninja god by yourself. Senju Hashirama deserves to be the god of ninjas, and he can actually take the 10 tricks of the true god. My trick. Tianyu raised a finger. In the past, the legendary ninja who killed 5 lives, like Nagato, had to use 5 moves. After signing into the Whitebeard template and increasing the completion rate to 30%, he said that Kakuzu is just a trick. When Nagato heard this, he was not convinced and wanted to say something. Don't tell me. If he is willing to fate, he is super spicy Tionsen or planetary devastation, then he can really bring down the legendary ninja with 1 move. Shut up. However, Nagato was interrupted by Yahiko before he could pretend to be forced. Which one did you 3 perform? Stop it. Cannibalism is forbidden at Akatsuki, have you heard that? Quote. After preventing Nagato from pretending to be forced by his own power, Yahiko saw Kakuzu fighting in a group of 3 people, and the more they fought, the more fierce they were, and he quickly shouted. No way, Kakuzu seemed to be a killer at this time. When greeted Master Sasori and Orochimaru, it was a ruthless gesture, leaving no room for it. Yahiko was surprised when he saw it. What an antagonism between Kakuzu, Master Sasori and Orochimaru. I want to stop too, but the lunatic Kakuzu refused. Master Sasori was so angry that he scolded his mother. Fortunately, he just felt that the legendary ninja was warm and hospitable and generous. As a result, after going out, Kakuzu, who said that he knew each other 1 second before, turned his face and didn't recognize him in the next second. Without talking about martial arts, he directly attacked him and Orochimaru. Fortunately, neither of them was careless, and both had flashes. Otherwise, he would have died in Kakuzu's hands in minutes. Come yet, move faster. Quote. The corner of Kakuzu's eyes glanced at the 4 Tianyu, mainly Tianyu and Nagato. As a man who can match the god of ninjas, he said that at Akatsuki, only Qinglong Tianyu and Rinnegan Nagato can be compared with him. Fight. Seeing that both Tianyu and Nagato were here, Kakuzu not only did not stop, but decided to go all out. Before the 2 intervene, a wave broke out to see if Sasori and Orochimaru could be turned over on the spot. Fire style head hard, wind style suppress, lightning style false darkness, water style water dragon bomb technique, earth style earth dragon ball technique. 4 mask monsters and Kakuzu body teamed up. 5 super advanced ninjutsu with different nature changes simultaneously blasted towards Sasori and Orochimaru of the red sand. Kakuzu, I'm the first puppet master of Sand Shinobi, I'm afraid you won't succeed. Others are afraid of your legend of a ninja, I am not afraid of Orochimaru. Sasori and Orochimaru of the red sand thought that Tianyu had all come out, and Kakuzu didn't dare to be presumptuous. But they obviously underestimated Kakuzu's dedication to money. For money, Kakuzu even dares to exist even Nagato. Magnet-style sand-iron boundary method. Sasori of Akasago manipulated 3rd case cage to play magnet style's unparalleled meaning on the spot. 5 escapes Dalian playing technique. Dignified Sanin not only became a Akatsuki intern, and didn't even have a formal establishment, but also had a hard time carrying it all the way, and Orochimaru was already mad. As a result, when I arrived at the base at Akatsuki, I met Kakuzu, who seemed to have a good sounding voice, and invited him out very enthusiastically to ask him to get to know him, but he turned out to be a fool who wanted to exchange other people's heads for money. With grief and anger, Orochimaru decided that he couldn't bear it. He opened his few cards on the spot. As the most proud student of 3rd Hokage, Sarutobi Hiruzen's 5 escape Dalian playing technique, he naturally also learned. I dare to do it when I come. I think the 3 of you clearly don't put me at Akatsuki, Yahiko. Quote. Yahiko saw the Kakuzu trio in front of his face, and they actually acted unscrupulously, so angry that they jumped off the battlefield on the spot, in a posture that they wanted to make seals and amplify their moves. Frankly speaking, no matter who it is, Yahiko has more than 40 seals from the start, and he still has the stance of continuing to seal, knowing that the ninjutsu he is about to release is no small thing. It is too long before shaking. Judging from this posture, it really made him launch this ninjutsu, and others might have gone. You really consider yourself to be Wentai, the hand of Lei Ben. Seeing Yahiko's front shaking time is so long, I am afraid that he will walk on the old road of Tianyu, the hand of the thunder hand Wentai, and quickly stretched out his hand and threw the Yahiko who was still there. It's really a bunch of people who don't worry about it. After Yahiko got in the way, Tianyu, who was in the center of the battlefield, glanced at the ninjutsu on both sides without any haste. On one side are 5 super advanced ninjutsu with varying natures. On one side is also a similar Wudun Dalian playing technique plus magnet style. He doesn't know who will take away in a wave. He only knew that if the two sides were to use ninjutsu against the waves, the base under his feet would be taken away by a wave. Call out. Thinking of this, a touch of orangutan began to climb up Tianyu's dragon eyes, and the surrounding air rippled with circles visible to the naked eye. Conqueror's haki, like the raging sea, surged out wave after wave. Whether it is the legendary ninja, Master Sasori, or Orochimaru, facing his superbly domineering and mighty conqueror's haki, one after another is shocked into a trance. Alright, anyway, the life-saving abilities of the three of you have competed one by one. Let's try the power of the double 4 Emperor's template. It couldn't be more suitable. Quote. At the same time, Tianyu opened his 5 fingers and turned his left and right hands into the claws of the blue dragon. At the same time, he patted the legendary ninja on the left with Master Sasori and Orochimaru on the right. Click. The scene that shocked the three of Nagato, Yahiko, and Konan appeared. The air slapped by Tianyu's left and right hands stretched out a series of cobweb cracks under the sound of glass cracking. The Buddha in the space has all solidified at this moment. In the next second, starting from where he touched with both hands, the atmosphere within a radius of tens of meters shattered like glass. Boom. There was a loud noise, and the majestic shock poured out. Whether it's the 5 super advanced ninjutsu released by Kakuzu, Orochimaru's 5 escapes, and Master Sasori's magnet style, under the power of Tianyu's blue dragon and double 4 Emperor's templates, they are all like white paper, and they are instantly destroyed. Shattered. What? At the same time, the legendary ninja, Master Sasori, and Orochimaru who had just recovered from the shock of Conqueror's haki were hit hard, flying upside down like a broken kite, rubbing the ground, and Luffy was 100 meters away. With just one blow, the 2 official members of Akatsuki and an internal languished on the ground with a look of despair, and couldn't get up at all for a while. Good. Tianyu lowered his head and glanced at his own dragon claw filled with shocking power. He was quite satisfied with the power of the double 4 Emperor's template. Even if the completion of Whitebeard's template is only 30%, Shockfruit has not yet awakened, and he has not completely transformed into a blue dragon. He can still throw away the 3 shadow-level powerhouses in seconds. The double 4 Emperor's template is indeed terrifying. This power, can human beings control it? On the other side, witnessing Tianyu's unrivaled power like a god and a dragon, between Tianyu's gestures, everyone's eyes couldn't help falling on the figure floating in the air with both hands turned into dragon claws. The daybreak base of Nuo-Da, also because of the shock of everyone, fell into a state of silence for a while. Hiss, is Tianyu actually so powerful? After a while, the silence was broken by Yahiko's cold breath. Legendly ninja, Master Sasori, Orochimaru couldn't hold on to even a single face. Konan saw his scalp numb. I should be able to do it too. Nagato made a dark contrast. Draw a conclusion. It's nothing great. As a god, he has a wave of life, leaving a bit of nosebleeds, and opening a super spicy Tionsen can do it. Which other dancer wants to dance? Tianyu is suspended in the air, and the scarlet dragon eyes exudes an overbearing aura. Please stand up, I promise not to kill him. He looked down at the audience condescendingly. Legend has it that ninja, Master Sasori, or even the strongest intern Orochimaru, after staring at Tianyu for a short time, they all instinctively put aside and flinched. My Kakuzu tells a ninja that I can even fight a ninja battle. I can't even catch a punch from him. Kakuzu avoided Tianyu's sight, and his horror filled his 5 hearts. The short book street rushed to fight. He already knew that Tianyu was not easy, but never expected that when the fight really started, he was not the enemy of Qinglong. Mr. Tianyu, I didn't expect you to hide such amazing power. Orochimaru almost didn't envy, and went crazy with jealousy. With such a perfect body, as powerful as a god-man approaching dust, he can only see but can't touch it. Is this the power over all the official members of Akatsuki? Sasori took a breath. Facing Haki's rush into the sky, Tianyu was extremely powerful. The 3 thorns of Akatsuki all bowed their heads and said nothing. One by one did not dare to dance again. Even Kakuzu, who is addicted to money, is being beaten so honestly at this moment. Sasori, for you, how did you start it just now? Quote. Seeing Tianyu Kamui descended from the sky, instantly suppressing the 3 Xiaowu kings at Akatsuki, and after completely squeezing the scene to death, Nagato, the leader of Akatsuki, immediately questioned Master Sasori. It's not Kakuzu's dangling hair. Just now, I took the initiative to go out and get to know him. When I saw that Daomao entered Akatsuki earlier than me, had more seniority than me, and spoke nicely, I believed it. In the end, this slapstick talked about getting acquainted, but in fact it deceived us out, and then used our 2 heads to go to the black market in exchange for a reward. Quote. When Nagato asked about the reason, Master Sasori was furious. This opening is just 3 successive squeaks of hair. One can imagine how angry Master Sasori is and how hateful Kakuzu's approach is. Quote. Quote. After the 4 Tianyu listened, their expressions gradually became wonderful. Even Tianyu and Konan, who had known this a long time ago, were a bit speechless. But don't tell me, Kakuzu is just like that, loyal, and always prefers money only. And Renin is offering a high reward, let alone Orochimaru and Sasori of the Red Sand. Seeing hundreds of millions dangling in front of him, this made the legendary how the ninja could hold back his turbulent heart. However, this meeting involved members of the organization, which is a bit unreasonable. Kakuzu, do you have anything to say? Nagato's eyes on Kakuzu gradually became cold. Rinnegan exudes a lofty sense of oppression. I admit that I like money a little bit. But I also did this to test their instruments. If Orochimaru and Sasori really died here, it means that they are just men of this degree. This kind of instrument is not worthy of working with me, let alone walking with God. The only effect on the organization is to be exchanged for money by me, which becomes the fund for the organization's activities. Quote. In the face of Rinnegan's pressure from Nagato, Kakuzu behaved very calmly. I think the leader, you don't want to be dragged by some pig teammates when you perform tasks in the future. Don't tell me, what he said really moved Nagato a bit. In particular, the sentence is not worthy to walk with God, and it hit Nagato's G-spot severely. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.